Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Simon. Happy birthday to you.
And it's not only Simon's birthday. Magnus Carlsen is turning 31 today. He will have the white pieces. So let's see if he has something to celebrate. The champion and his challenger are tied after 3 games in Dubai. 11 games remain to decide the winner of this World Championship match. And David, on his birthday, will this be the day that Magnus Carlsen pushes for his first win?
He'll definitely hope so. It's a big day for him. He's going to hope he can get a birthday gift, but either way, it can sometimes be difficult to play on your birthday. Sometimes you are a bit distracted. It's decision time for Magnus now.
Yeah, and he does also have some bad memories against Kaja in 2016 of pushing too hard with the white pieces and losing to Kaja with the black pieces then. Will that be in the back of his head?
Possibly. It's always traumatizing when you lose with the white pieces, and at this level, if you press too hard, if you attack too soon, it can backfire. So Magnus, he'll try and get a position where there isn't too much risk involved, where he can put some pressure on Nepomniachtchi.
And it was also on this day, exactly 5 years ago, that Magnus Carlsen lifted the trophy against Sergei Kaja defending his title. Now, you started out saying 30% in favor of Magnus Carlsen against Nepomniachtchi. What do you say now, David?
It's difficult. It's difficult to weigh up those odds. I'm still going to stick to 70-30 because I think Magnus won't be too unhappy. 3 draws, yes, but he does have more white pieces remaining now than black pieces in the remainder of the tournament. So I'm still going to say Magnus Carlsen. He's going to hope that he can grind down Nepomniachtchi eventually.
All right. Well, game 3 2 days ago, it was a quite quick draw, but it was not without mystery in the opening phase.
On the 3rd day of the FIDE World Championship in Dubai, Titans Carlsen and Nepomniachtchi locked horns in a calculated encounter.
Magnus Carlsen has played his pawn to e5. That means he's in preparation and is following some fantastic calculations that he's probably made with his team. Are you saying you're getting worried for Magnus Carlsen now?
I think he should be fine, but he's got to be accurate and energetic. Normally when you have a bad pawn structure, for example, in the situation that's now about to arise on the board after queen takes queen, okay, he has taken with the rook, so we will reach this position. When you have a bad pawn structure as black, you have to be energetic. It's a good strategy there. I mean, a draw will happen, but good strategy from Magnus Carlsen. He's got a light squared bishop, so he puts his pawns on dark squares. That's just something for everyone at home. Not every bishop endgame is drawn. This one happens to be, and it's about to be a draw. Let's go back to the players.
It's a move 42, David. Oh. It's a draw in game 3 between Nepomniachtchi and Magnus Carlsen.
Yeah, I wasn't thrilled to have this ending, but I felt that it was generally well within the drawing range, and yeah, I was happy to liquidate, of course, to this pure bishop's ending, because I get to centralize the king and push the pawn and create a barrier.
We are ready in the studio to now follow Game 4 from Dubai. Also joined today by Grandmaster Arjan Tari, the second strongest Grandmaster in Norway, also a friend of Magnus. And Arjan, what do you think about the match so far?
So far, it's been a lot of interesting games, fighting for sure. Today, Magnus has the white pieces playing on his birthday.
Yeah.
I think he's going to play very aggressive and try to put as much pressure as possible.
Yeah. We have to talk a little bit more about what happened before the rest day, Jovanka. So you were following the online database during that game, and you discovered something intriguing in the start of the game.
Yeah, it was very mysterious. And first of all, the line had been analysed before on these cloud engines. It had been analysed in October, and it also had been analysed 2 days before that. So this was game 1. And we were thinking, you know, this line is pretty obscure. What are the chances that this is just by accident? So we're thinking it could have been someone from Magnus's team who was just double-checking the lines. And I don't know. That would be a serious leak, actually.
We did confront the players with this discovery after the game. Let's hear the reaction to it.
I am Rune from the global broadcasts of Chess24. The question is primarily for Magnus, and would also love to hear if Ian had a reaction. It appears that today's game was analyzed in an online database all the way up until move 20, 2 days ago. If this was somebody from your team who forgot to make it private, how would you react?
I don't think. I don't think any of us can reasonably comment on that.
Well, I can only say that normally you try to switch off this online cloud option in your chess base when you analyze, to make sure no one uses let's say your fruitful analysis. But I mean, it could probably be a coincidence as well.
So, David, why is it such a big blunder if someone from the teams have forgot to make this analyze private?
Well, nowadays, the margins are so small at the top level, everyone is so good that it's all about information, it's all about these small margins. And if you do know that someone has studied a certain position in the opening you're looking at, and if it was recent, it's quite likely to be your opponent's team. And just having that kind of sense of direction, finding out what your opponents might be looking at, that's, I think, that's the key. I mean, if, for example, Nepomniachtchi had been able to predict to move 20, he would have been able to go even further, still using top computers, and he would have gained a big advantage having that knowledge. So, yeah, it's nowadays you just need to hide everything. You see how secretive the players are about their teams, about their coaches, and I think there'll be some serious words within the camps after that incident.
And Arjen, I know you've been working as a second for Anish Giri. Is it actually possible to forget to turn off private mode when you are working on some opening preparations? Yeah,
it can actually happen sometimes, because usually it can turn on automatically and then you forget to turn it off. It has happened, but it's very important that, let's say you analyze a position which hasn't happened so many times before, it's like a new line, then it's so important to turn it off, because you're like discovering some new things and you don't want other people to find it.
All right, well, maybe there was some cleaning up on the rest day yesterday in either Magnus or Jan's team. But Magnus, on the rest day, he also played football, of course. And Jovanka, how welcome do you think this rest day was for the two players?
I think it was very welcome. I mean, playing 3 games in a row, it's quite exhausting. And also we have to mention that in 2018 and 2016, well, 2018 at least, the players just played 2 games and then took a rest day. Yeah. So here it would have been 3 games, and as you can see, Magnus very much enjoying himself and relaxing in the way he does best, which is by playing sports.
Do we know anything about what Jan did, or what do you think Jan did on the rest day, David?
We can only speculate. Unfortunately, Jan is quite private. He has been throughout the last few months, and knowing him, probably just a bit of chess, a bit of relaxation, just trying to stay in the same routine. I'm not sure he would have been doing the same as Magnus. I doubt there would have been football for him.
Is Magnus usually very good on the day after rest days, Arjen, because he is very good at relaxing and doing other stuff?
I haven't looked at the statistics, but I would think so, yeah. He usually really enjoys doing some sports on the rest day, and then he gets energy for the next day. Yeah. I think it's very nice for him to relax.
Definitely.
Yeah, traditionally, Magnus, he's maybe a bit of a slow starter. It takes him a game or 2 to get into the flow, but now it's been 3 games. He's had that rest day. I wouldn't be surprised if, like Arjen says, if he does find that energy now and start accelerating. Yep,
and we definitely want energy from social media today, as always, Jovanka.
Yeah, the match so far has been absolutely incredible, and we want you at home to be very much involved in this experience. So we're asking you to show us your selfies. Where are you watching the match from? Who are you watching the match with? We're also asking for your thoughts, your move suggestions, and we will definitely feature them on the show. So you can tweet us by using the hashtag C24Live.
Definitely. Go ahead and tweet us, everyone. We're going to head down to Dubai now. We have two teams on ground in Dubai. One of them is Tanya. She's in the playing venue, close to the players, but also close to some legendary chess players.
We're at the Dubai Exhibition Center and the match game 4 starts now. Now, this is a new stage in the match because the first 3 games were all about the unnerving tension settling down into match. So this means we're going to see new strategies, new gameplay. And as the players take their seats on the right side, the auditorium's there. On our left side, we've got another icon, another legend who's here for FIDE as part of their commentary team. I've got with me 5 times world champion Vishwanathan Anand. Anand, thank you for joining us.
Hi.
Anand, we are back here after the rest day. 3 games down. What adjustments are you expecting the teams have made?
Well, this is only 2 games now before the next rest day. So I guess just tweak whatever they're going to do. Probably the responsibility falls on Nepo to come up with something more with white than in the 3rd game, which means that Magnus probably had a chance to spend more time on white. He also managed to watch a lot of football and basketball, so hopefully he's relaxed as well.
And it's also his birthday. What's it like to play on your birthday?
I think you yourself don't care, but it's a distraction if everyone else starts mentioning it. At least that was my experience.
And speaking of your immense experience, tell us a little bit what rest days were like for you during your World Championship matches.
Well, the night before the rest day was obviously my favorite because that's when you can switch out the computers, you let go. And it's a day when the whole team was given off. Next day, you put it off as long as possible. I would put it off till at least noon or at least lunch. And then the inevitable, you have to start working again. That was my usual routine. So it's just a chance to break from the routine. Because as long as the games are going on, you never quite are able to rest. So it's nice to have this rest day break.
Yeah, I was just wondering if these rest days are actually about resting because, of course, after 3 games, you want to relax a bit, but also the tension of the upcoming round is building up.
Yes, very much. Like I said, the night before and half the rest day, you can actually rest and disconnect. And then reality strikes. I mean, your team has probably started working a bit, and then when you go to the room, they say, well, there's a to-do list, it's growing, and well, then you have to just sit down and get through that.
All right, now, Anand, Jan Nepomniachtchi so far has been sort of different from his usual style of play. He's been very much in control, consistent, has kept a solid approach. Quite unlike what a lot of us were expecting from speed, dangerous, and the fast Jan that we've come to know and his unpredictability. What kind of a challenger is he proving to be?
Well, that's to be expected, and it's still very early stages. It's 3 games in a 14-game match. So these traits could come out still. But for the moment, I think especially in game 2, you saw some impulsiveness of the players. It's only very late in the game that the impulsive stuff starts. So Magnus blundered the exchange. Then he decided to play for bishop e4. Jan panicked a bit. Panicked at the thought of this bishop h7 4th rank transfer, so he tried to anticipate that with c3, which is a very, very complicated solution, very, very complicated to an answer to a question which wasn't being posed. So that's really the only moment of impulsiveness. Everything else looks like they're sticking to script. But these moments eventually come out. I mean, most games will be decided in 1 or 2 moments, and they're starting to come. So I think for the moment, it's the match we wanted.
The legendary Vishwanathan, the previous world champion, thinking about the game coming today. We, of course, have the prediction challenge going on, guys, the Magnus Nepo prediction challenge. You are doing quite well, David Howell. What have you predicted for today?
Yeah, so far so good for me, but today is actually the first time I'm really unsure what opening it will be. Magnus could take a variety of approaches. I've said it's going to be a Queen's Gambit, but it could be anything really. And I've said a Magnus win in 42 moves.
Ooh, what about you, Jovanka?
Well, I've been predicting decisive results and I've clearly failed there. So this time I'm going to go for a draw. And also, like David, I've also gone for a Queen's Gambit. I do think that Magnus is going to repeat what he played in Game 2.
All right. Well, Arjan has told me that he has not signed up for the prediction challenge yet. So we're going to have a commercial break now. And that's a good time for all of you at home as well to submit your prediction on magnusnepo.com. We'll be back after a quick commercial break.
Today, more than ever, when the world comes together to create a better tomorrow.
It's going to be magic.
La magie. Magic.
Magic with music.
With architecture.
With colors.
Magic with celebration.
With your safety.
From here.
There.
And everywhere.
For 6 whole months, day and night.
Join the making of a new world, starting October 1st.
Welcome to the new Chess24 playing experience. Play in light mode or dark mode. Choose from a range of time controls or create a custom game. And get paired with players from around the world, fast. Enjoy a polished playing experience while making moves on a fresh, responsive board to claim your victories. Train and improve with over 80,000 puzzles. And that's not all. Download now and discover what more you can enjoy in our brand new app.
This is John. John loves to study chess. This is David. David loves to study chess as well, but efficiently. John spends more time setting up the board and figuring out what's on the page of his book than he gets to study. David likes to take it easy and use his time wisely. David has finished his exercise for today. John should try the same.
Now anyone can learn and improve their chess skills with the world champion, Magnus Carlsen. The Magnus Trainer app is packed with fun mini-games and interactive training content. Playable anytime, anywhere. Get the Magnus Trainer, available in the App Store and Google Play.
Welcome back to Chess24 Global. We are looking forward to Game 4 in the World Championship match. And this is World Champion Magnus Carlsen arriving, as always, staying inside the car with his trainer, Peter Heine, for up to 10 minutes, probably discussing the upcoming game. It is Magnus Carlsen's birthday today, turning 31 years old. It's also Simon Williams' birthday today. And Simon, first of all, happy birthday.
Thank you. Cheers. Yeah.
So what is it like to play chess, and such an important game as well, on your birthday?
I mean, I suppose it's a bit daunting sometimes. I think Anand said a very good thing there, that, you know, if people mention it's your birthday, then you're going to get a bit like flustered maybe by that thought. And we can see here Magnus getting out of the car quite early there. I think it was also Steinitz, the first world champion, who said you should never play chess on your birthday.
Really?
Yeah, I think he said that. So just because any distraction at all can maybe take you away from the focus. But my thinking with this game particularly is that Magnus has been rested. He's in a good mood. He's got the white pieces. He's got the first games out of the way. And he is a bit shaky sometimes at the start of tournaments, at the start of these things. So I think he's going to be in a very good mood to play a very interesting game today. So I'm excited, very excited.
But there is an interesting stat, because there has now been played 17 classical World Championship match games in a row that has ended with draws. The 2 last ones in the Karjakin match in 2016, all of the games against Karjana in 2018, and now the 3 first games in this one. Now, playing all of these draw games, is that a legacy that Magnus Carlsen is just dying to get rid of?
Yeah, I think it's certainly a legacy he'd like to get rid of as long as he wins. He probably doesn't want to lose a game to get rid of that legacy, but it's so tough at this level. And I know there was even some criticism about the 12 draws in the last World Championships, but I view it totally differently. I think the tension is so fine. Little mistakes, little margins make all the difference. So it's a tough game, and you can just see the tension on the board, and that's kind of what makes it interesting. But I honestly think he's got a great chance today, because with the white pieces, the rest, this is a good chance.
Yeah. And it is his birthday, maybe a day to celebrate. He is turning 31 years old today. Magnus Carlsen was born on this day in 1990. Now, his father tried to teach him chess when he was 4.5 years old, but Magnus Carlsen, he wasn't a chess genius from the very get-go.
They're still our kids, although a couple of them have reached 30 already. So Magnus grew up in the 90s. He was quite a cute boy. Magnus was born in November 1990. He already had a sister, Ellen, who was 1.5 years old.
We would trade off me playing with more girly things and getting him to join playing with dolls and doing dress up and do songs and be all showy, and then I would have to play with his cars. And you know, he loved reading about the commune flags and knowing the area of all the communes and the number of inhabitants, and he would make me quiz him.
And the favorite one is John Deere.
Ah, so like any other kid.
Yeah. My wife and I, we considered our children to be absolutely normal in many respects, basically. Now, later, I understand that they had some special traits. And clearly Magnus, he was into concentrating for hours at a time, doing various tasks, whether it was Legos or chess or math or sports results. And this is from his Lego phase. He turned 5 and he was, it was fun to have some friends over, but I think his main occupation was the new big Lego he had received that day.
So any chess pictures in here, or is this too early?
This is too early.
If I were to become world champion, that would be great.
Magnus Carlsen, the Mozart of chess.
Magnus had shown clear inclination and ability to certain activities, concentrated activities, that I thought would match well with chess, basically. So I tried to teach Magnus and his older sister chess when he was 4.5. And then it was so difficult for them, really. I mean, they could learn the rules, we could play some games. Typically, I would start with just one pawn and my king, and they would try to beat me with all their forces. But in the end, it was usually a stalemate, or sometimes I even won with my one pawn. If I had any aspirations for the kids, basically that went all the way during the first year or two. Fortunately, because it turned out that chess was much more difficult than I had understood, basically. And when Magnus started becoming really interested in chess at 7.5, he said because he wanted to beat his older sister. Then I didn't have that much ambition on his behalf, and he was allowed to develop and flourish on his own, basically. And then maybe a year or half a year later, I rediscovered that, okay, he has a talent for chess. My initial inclination was right. That was a memorable trip.
When he was 8.5, he played his first tournament, and before that he practiced the notation, so then he wanted to play one game against me when we were at our cabin up in the mountains, and I agreed after some pressure from him and Dad, and that was the first time he beat me.
when he was 8.5. That was his first tournament overall, basically. And I thought he would do quite well because he had learned so much during those 6-7 months. But playing a tournament was somewhat different, so he came 11th, I think, in the end, or 13th. And he liked it a lot. And then a year later, he won this group. Here, his grandfather joined him to Iceland. That was one of his first kind of important victories. And with John Ludwig Hammer.
Later to become his second.
Yeah, I think he was second there as well.
So I hope to become a grandmaster this year.
And is that realistic?
Yes, I think quite realistic.
Chess was very much his life from the age of 8.
Hi Magnus, happy birthday. Even though it's coming from Moscow and we're voting for Jan, but we wish you all the best, you're the best player. Cheers.
Yeah, happy birthday Magnus from Canada.
Well, happy birthday world champion. Cheers from all of the fans in India.
I'd like to wish him happy birthday, and that I'd like to be, I like the way he plays.
Do you have a message for Magnus on his birthday?
Yes, Magnus, I'm a great fan of you, and I'm Danish, so I'm going to say it in Danish. Tillykke med din fødselsdag. Happy birthday, Magnus.
Yes, Magnus, happy birthday, and keep us dreaming with chess, please. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Magnus, and I hope you continue to play great games in the rest of the tournament. However, my favorite is Nepo, but happy birthday nonetheless.
I love it, that is.
All the best for your birthday. Enjoy your day, and I hope that bleeds through to your chess and you play some of your best chess. Happy birthday, Magnus.
Have a great match, to be full concentrate on the match, and hope to see the great moves.
Happy birthday and best wishes, and of course good health and good result in the match. We are a fan of you, and really I am impressed with your game, Magnus.
Hey, happy birthday. I know you'll be 31 years old, and I know you're going to win this tournament soon, so blessings, and I love you.
And a happy birthday to Magnus Carlsen from us here in the global broadcast as well, of course. And Arian, being Norwegian and a Norwegian grandmaster, what has Magnus meant for Norwegian chess?
For Norwegian chess, it meant so much, because from 2013 they started to send chess on TV, and then it became like so much more popular. I was just like 14 years old at the time, and I really felt it when I went to school, that everybody started talking about it, and it just felt like chess was so much more respected, and it was a really nice feeling to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Norway feels like a chess nation now, thanks to him.
Exactly. And we do see the playing venue. We are waiting for Jan Nepomniachtchi and Magnus Carlsen to arrive for Game 4. And do you think, Arian, that you would have been where you are today without Magnus Carlsen? Is it possible to sort of think back? Would it be possible to go for a chess career?
That's a good question. I mean, I think I would be definitely at a lower level if it was not for
Really?
Magnus, because I got more opportunities because of him and chess being more popular. Yeah, so big thanks to him.
Yep, Magnus Carlsen. Will it be a victory for him on his birthday with the white pieces? David, what did you say in the prediction challenge? You said...
I said that Magnus would win.
Yep.
I said it would be a Queen's Gambit and it would be 42 moves, but we've seen lots of long games so far. It depends whether that's part of
playing with the black pieces. From Russia, the challenger, Jan Nepomniachtchi.
Maurice Ashley introducing the players. Magnus Carlsen is ready, although again with a white suit, so that seems to be what he's going to do for this World Championship match. Dress in the colors that he is playing with.
Yeah. Nepomniachtchi with a black suit.
The first move of the event.
It'll be easy for us to see.
The president of FIDE, Arkady Dvorkovich.
And that is Maurice Ashley working for FIDE, who is also introducing Dvorkovich. Let's see if there's going to be a celebrity making the first move here today. I realized in Game 3 there was a famous tennis player We didn't see that right away, but...
Yeah, she's quite high, top 10 in the world at least, so...
Yeah, I haven't studied my tennis too well, I guess.
Former top 10, I think.
Yeah.
Former tennis player. Yeah.
All right, it's going to be interesting to see then if a celebrity pops up here to make the first move for Magnus Carlsen. So far, none of them has made the right first move, correct?
Not yet.
Ooh.
Okay.
Wow, okay.
C-pawn pushed forward.
I don't think that's going to be right either.
How shocked will everyone in that room be if Magnus does not push that pawn back?
I'm not sure. He played this against you at the World Cup, no?
Yeah, he played against me, but usually you don't see it in a World Championship match. Usually it's like D4 and E4 are the main moves, but we'll see in a second, I guess.
Okay, the move has been taken back. What's it going to be? Is that a king's pawn?
D4, I think.
That's E4.
Oh, that's E4.
Oh, wow.
All of our predictions are wrong with the opening, unfortunately.
Wow.
It's a king's pawn opening, and how will Nepomniachtchi react? Big moment. It's E5. No Sicilian.
Okay.
So they're like switching the colors because Magnus with black against Jan, it was E4, E5. So now we see Magnus playing E4 with white. It's always nice to see new openings being played.
So this is so far the same as in game 3?
Yeah, until this last move. Jan Nepomniachtchi now has just played copycat, and it's the Petrov defense. I wonder how many people would have guessed this because Jan Nepomniachtchi, not known for this opening. He played it a couple of times, I think, in the candidates tournament earlier this year, but that was really the first time we've seen it from him. And it's not traditionally his style either, just to play kind of a drawish, kind of solid opening. And, OK, Magnus has gone a pawn up temporarily, but White's knight, having grabbed a pawn, gets kicked back, and Nepomniachtchi will regain his pawn. So this is well-known stuff, and Ariane, this happened a lot, right, in the match between Carlsen and Caruana in 2018?
Yeah, this is the Petrov, and it's known to be like the most solid openings in chess. But as David said, it's a bit surprising that Jan plays it because it's not usually his style. He played like Sicilian his whole life. He's known to be an aggressive player, but for the match, it's probably a good strategy. It's interesting. I was talking to Anish like 2 months ago, and we were discussing which opening Jan will go for after E4. And I was thinking the Sicilian, but Anish actually predicted that Jan will go for the Petrov. And I was surprised that he said that, but he was actually right.
Spot on. Yeah, Anish Giri clearly. Yeah, can see the future. So meanwhile, a couple more moves. Both sides just occupying the centre with pawns, bringing bishops out. This is still very, very standard stuff. And OK, I wonder who will launch the first surprise. Because I think Magnus avoided this exact position in his match against Caruana. He was trying different lines of the Petrov, or against the Petrov as white. OK, both sides now just castling their kings. Still very traditional, very well-known territory here. And Jan, we've seen this actually, Ariane, Jan, normally when it's his move, when it's Magnus's move, sorry, he just doesn't stay at the board.
Yeah, actually during this match, he's been not staying so much at the board. He likes to, I don't know, go to the restroom or stay in the chill room. Maybe he feels the pressure or something. But this is a very topical line these days. It's been played in some top games. I've been looking at this line quite recently, actually. It's white usually goes c4 here. Yeah. It's a very logical move, putting a pawn and attacking the center with c4, and that pawn cannot really be taken because it's defending the knight. Yeah. So I think that's what Magnus is going to do.
So it's sort of a trending opening then?
Yeah, very, very trendy, and seen many games recently.
Yeah. Other moves might include just bringing the rook. OK, he does go for your suggestion there. This is the most popular reply. But you mentioned it's trendy as well. It kind of goes through phases, right, the Petrov. A few years back, it was really popular with Kramnik and Gelfand defending the black pieces, and then people stopped playing it. They went to the Berlin. But now, after Caruana started playing it, now everyone's back at the Petrov.
Ah, so it's like with fashion.
It's fashion, yeah. Openings, they're all about fashion.
Wow.
So these days, Berlin, Queen's Gambit, they're still in fashion, but Petrov, maybe, yeah, it experiences those trends quite a lot.
And seeing it now in the World Championship match, that's probably going to boost the popularity even more?
Yeah. Petrov has been very popular for many years, but it's been like on and off. It goes through stages. But being played at a World Championship, it means that you checked it so much. So
exactly, yeah.
So might be that people will play it even more. Now usually black plays pawn to c6 to support his center because his pawn is under attack now. So we'll see. I think when Jan comes back, he's going to do that pretty fast.
Yeah.
Both players for sure would have predicted this position. It might have come as a small surprise to Magnus the Petrov, but he will have seen Jan played it, and he will have some idea up his sleeve at least.
One thing I've noticed about this match is that Magnus has been very keen to launch a surprise, to which Nepomniachtchi has known a little bit, but Magnus has known one move further. Where do you think the surprise will come?
That's a good question, because Magnus had to see Petrov coming. As David pointed out, he played it in the candidates, so it was possible. We'll see after c6. It's hard to say. I'm really curious about it. One interesting point to say is that in the last game in Norway chess, when Magnus played e4 against Jan actually played the Berlin defense. I think it was kind of a psychological game he was doing there, pretending that he's going to play Berlin in the match, but then having Petrov instead. So I think he was kind of faking it with playing the Berlin in Norway chess.
All right.
Fake it until you make it, right? Yeah. It's all about those false trails, those kind of mind games.
Yeah.
And,
because then Magnus's team will have to have studied a lot the Berlin, have some ideas in that.
Yeah.
Especially the Berlin, that will take weeks to study just to come up with a few ideas. So I wonder how much time Magnus and his coaches devoted to this opening. And there we go. Ariane is correct. Black does bolster his pawn center with the move c6, and Magnus brings his rook across.
All right, well, every day we have a Chessable opening course free for everyone at home, and since it's Magnus's birthday, today's opening course is a strategy lesson with the world champion himself, Magnus Carlsen, so you can go check that out on the link below. It is a free course, so go check it out on Chessable and study it while you're watching this game unfold, because then you can definitely learn something. And it is Jan Nepomniachtchi now. In the move, is he at the board right now?
I doubt it somehow.
Yeah, because usually he plays so fast, so you would kind of, okay, he's actually at the board. Rook e1 is, I think it's this maybe second main move. Usually, recently I've seen white play knight c3 mostly, but rook e1 is also very logical, putting the rook on a better square and pressing against the e4 knight.
Yeah, and actually maybe we can show this, because this is Magnus's strategy Jovanka mentioned earlier. Often he'll play a mainline opening, but then he'll only choose the third or fourth most popular move, and this one is the most trendy, bringing the white knight out, putting some pressure on the center. And I know historically as well, they used to take on this square first and then bring the white knight out, and this is, I mean, this leads to a lot of opening theory, a lot of well-known lines. Personally, in this position as well, I've played this move against Vladimir Kramnik. This is going back, oh God, I'm old, more than 10 years ago. But either way, rook e1 is also very logical, putting some pressure on the center now. And I'm just trying to remember what the main moves are.
I can help you out there. So the main moves here are actually to develop the light squared bishop to reinforce the knight, move the bishop to f5. Another move is to support to develop the bishop one square further, actually, just to move it to g4, you know, pin and win. And then another popular move is to develop the rook and to reinforce the knight. And if black is feeling really, really energetic, you can also support the knight with a pawn. That's been played a handful of times.
And yeah, this one looks very nice because you cement your knight in the center, but you do also give away control over some squares. And later on, black might have to deal with a knight jumping into the center. That's now an outpost for white. So I would be surprised, to be honest, if we see this pawn push. Jan just taking some time to mull over the options. Okay, he's looking off to the left there. That means he's just recalling something rather than actually trying to calculate anything new. But once he does spend a couple of minutes, I'm pretty sure he'll bring out this bishop. I'm not sure where.
Yeah, I think he's going to go with the bishop to f5. It looks very logical. Just develop the bishop and protect the knight. But I'm quite surprised Jan is thinking for like 2 minutes now, 3 minutes. Yeah. Because this is one of the critical lines, but I guess he's just trying to remember. Maybe he looked at more options here and he's trying to choose which one to go for.
Yeah, I mean, they're all quite similar in this type of position. This move, bring the rook across. There's a few options for white, so maybe he's just trying to recall. It's still very standard position.
Well, Jan Nepomniachtchi, he is thinking now for 3 minutes. Let's head down to Dubai to get the latest from outside the arena.
It's a great day for chess, everybody. Again, the weather is awesome, the sky is blue, and I am here at the Spanish Pavilion with WFM Ashlyn Martinez. Am I saying that right?
Yes, W-I-M. Oh. Sorry, the F is not there.
W-I-M, even better, even better. And you are here as a chess professional for Chess24, but you are also here as a chess fan. Tell me, Ashlyn, what is it like to be in what I feel is chess heaven?
Oh, this is amazing. It's like the paradise for any chess player, I think. We have here the Spanish Pavilion full of chess, but also if you go to the playing hall, the Chess24 lounge, you just like smell chess everywhere.
Do you have time to follow the game, and do you think you have any predictions for what will happen today?
Well, kind of. I follow time to time, but because actually we have so many activities here during the games. But yeah, it's going to be super exciting. Today is Magnus' birthday, so for sure, like they will have some action as usual.
Well, thank you very much, Ashlyn, and congratulations to Magnus on his birthday, of course. Guys, back to you.
Thanks for that report, Rune. It looks so warm and nice in Dubai. You guys are so lucky. Now, we had 2 moves in the game.
Yep, a couple of moves. So first of all, Jan did protect his knight in the centre by bringing the black light square bishop out, as Ariane predicted, and now a very quick reply from Magnus Carlsen, showing that he's well prepared, bringing out the white queen. And every move has consequences, right? That's something that Jovanka always reminds me. And this white queen now is targeting a pawn on the b7 square that is no longer protected by black's light square bishop.
Yeah,
Jovanka, you're smiling at me.
I'm smiling at you because guess what? Magnus hasn't chosen the most popular move, which actually would be the line that you indicated with the queen moving to the c2 square. It is the second most popular move, which is actually to develop the queen to the b3 square, like David says, highlighting the consequences. Now I'm smiling because this appears to be Magnus's strategy to pick those openings, those sidelines within the main lines that maybe Nepomniachtchi hasn't studied. That's why I just love the intrigue. What can I say? And Nepomniachtchi has responded very quickly again, and this is also not the most popular response. He's just developed his queen 1 square, protecting the pawn that was under fire. The most popular move was just to ignore it and actually develop the knight to the edge of the board.
But look at the bar here. It's gone up to 1.3 for Magnus Carlsen. What do you think about this move, David?
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out, because Jan Nepomniachtchi, he spent around 8 minutes now on the clock, and just before he played this queen move as black, I saw him on the camera smiling. Is this because he kind of knows what's going on, or is it because he's already maybe caught off guard and he's kind of half bluffing? It's not clear to me. Sometimes I've faced Nepomniachtchi on many occasions, and sometimes he might be out of book, but then he'll continue playing fast just to try and scare his opponent. And yeah, a very logical move, just defending everything with the black queen, but then again, the evaluation bar, not so happy. Maybe white does have an idea or two here to put some pressure on. Jovanka, what's been played here before?
So what's been played here before? The most recent game I have here on the database is actually a game between Levon Aronian and Arjun Erigaisi, one of the competitors on the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour, only 16. And there, Levon played in a very committal way. He pushed his pawn forward. Okay. Magnus has gone for a little bit more flexible move and developed the knight. Again, this is the most popular move. I wonder whether Nepomniachtchi smiled because they had maybe predicted how Magnus would react.
Possibly.
We can maybe figure that out because, okay, we do have another move, a quick one from Jan Nepomniachtchi.
Okay, trade of knights now. There will be some exchanges. I think white is about to capture the bishops. Okay, the bishops are about to come off the board, and then I think Magnus will just recapture the knight and continue putting pressure with his queen against some weak pawns.
All right, well, let's head down to Dubai because Tanya is right now standing with Vladimir Potkin, the trainer of Jan Nepomniachtchi, who can maybe answer if they're happy now with what's happening in the opening stage here.
Well, that's the big question, Kaja. And of course, 1e4 by Magnus was a slight surprise, at least up in the Play Magnus group room, where Team Magnus is, because I think Catalan was what everyone was expecting, a little more testing, but the battle of the openings continue. And for more insights, we've got with us Jan Nepomniachtchi's longtime trainer, a grandmaster, top-level grandmaster himself, the former European champion, Vladimir Potkin, with us. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, Tanya. Yeah, nice to join you.
Vladimir, of course, 1e4, was that expected, or were you thinking it's going to be another Catalan?
Well, Magnus is a very flexible player. He can start with any pawn, and today he has birthday. Maybe he's on some special mood. So, but Jan is ready to fight, and of course it will be a good game.
Now, if you have to play Magnus, you have to expect 1e4. It can't be that big a surprise.
Yeah, that's for sure.
All right, and yesterday was the rest day. Tell us a little bit about that. What was it like for Team Nepomniachtchi? How did you guys spend the rest day?
Well, rest day is always good, and also we had an opportunity to try to Russian cuisine. Maybe you know some olivier and borscht, Russian deals, and of course it's always nice to have some spirit from your native country to feel in Dubai.
And the position that we do have right now out of the Russian defense, do you think Jan is comfortable in this position, the outcome of the opening?
Well, certainly if there is Russian defense, it can be expected from Russian player, yeah. But let's see, so it will be some good battle, I think, some fighting position, and first rounds shows that they are ready to fight, and this game will not be an exception.
And we've seen that. We've seen that in the first 3 games also, both players ready to fight. The one thing that all of us have been noticing, Vladimir, is this slightly different Jan that we've been talking about. You know, he's so much more in control, so much more confident, a lot consistent with his move, having a solid approach. We were expecting a very aggressive, unpredictable Jan that we're used to. Is that something that the team has worked on?
Well, I think Jan is improving last year, certainly, and he is doing a great job. And even for me as a coach, I am expecting what to see from Jan on his next game, and I'm inspired to see him playing good, feeling good, and feeling comfortable in such a big match for him.
He definitely looks very comfortable. And finally, tell us one thing that on the rest day, of course, the team is busy preparing, tweaking, adjusting to what they've witnessed in the first 3 games. How involved was Jan himself in this in-match progression of training?
Well, it's every player has his own recipe, and it's always flexible. When you feel inspiration, you are involved.
He's definitely putting up an amazing fight. It's a great World Championship match between these two. Thank you so much, Vladimir.
Yes, thank you, Tanya.
Thank you. Thank you. And that is Team Nepomniachtchi clearly doing all the right things that's required to give us a big fight at the World Championship match.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Tanya, for giving us insight to Team Nepo. We do have a couple of moves. What do you think, David?
We do have a couple of moves, and Magnus is continuing to blitz, continuing to play fast, and just this last queen move by White, again, that reeks to me of computer preparation. That's maybe not the most human move. Normally we would be looking to push pawns or develop pieces, but Magnus moving a queen for the 2nd time. I'm trying to figure out the idea, but clearly there is one behind that, and Nepomniachtchi also reacting instantly. Both players clearly within their preparation.
Yeah, definitely. As David says, the computers have really changed the nature of the game. But surprisingly enough, this position has been played before. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave against Fabiano Caruana, another 10 games in my database as well, the oldest one being Michael Adams against Alexander Morozovich. Still the same with that queen retreat. And incidentally, I have to say that Maxime Vachier-Lagrave was one of the players to play it, this variation. But I do know that he landed in Dubai, probably just to watch the match. But I love the fact that none of the teams have announced their second, so we can speculate and have fun.
I think he's doing maybe some commentary for the French Chess 24, or he's just relaxing there. Who knows?
Yeah.
But now Magnus played a different move than Maxime played in that game. I think he played rook to b1.
That's right. Yeah.
So now Magnus plays pawn to a4. I think that's a good move, supporting the queen. And if Black now takes on b5, White can take with the pawn, and then I think the pawn on b5 is doing a great job, because as David is pointing out, the a file becomes very nice for the rook on a1, and the pawn on a7 becomes pretty weak.
Will we definitely lose the queens quite soon?
It's quite likely. Actually, it's just happened, I think. Black has taken the queens. Just before we show this as well, some of the viewers at home might have been wondering in this position why, instead of White defending the queen, why White couldn't have grabbed a pawn. This would have been a huge blunder, unfortunately. So White takes a pawn, but because of the tension between the queens, Black would have been able to play bishop takes pawn, check, giving away the bishop, but gaining time. And then after White recaptures, the White queen would have dropped off. So we did indeed see a trade of queens. Instead of this, Magnus defending his queen, the queen's parting from the board, and immediately Jan Nepomniachtchi pushes forward. And Yeah, Magnus reacts again instantly.
Wow.
So Magnus here, he did have the opportunity to take this pawn as if it just moved one square. He could have played en passant, he could have captured, but black then would have been able to trade off even more pieces, and maybe white has a small advantage because black has 2 isolated pawns, but with limited material, with so many exchanges, probably it will fizzle out towards a draw. So Magnus, instead of playing en passant, which is super tempting, he's just ignored it and brought his knight to the edge of the board. So he's given black a protected pass pawn long term. This is going to be a very nice kind of trump card for black to use in the endgame, but he's trying to get in with the white knight to a nice square.
That looks like a very interesting move. If the white knight gets to f5, it's pretty annoying there. Let's say if black were to develop his knight now, which looks logical, to d7, then white can play a knight to f5. And the bishop doesn't really have any good squares to go to, has to go to c7. And then this is pretty annoying because white can just give a check on e7 with the knight. The king has to move and then take the pawn.
Yeah.
So Jan has to be careful about the knight coming to f5. Maybe g6 looks sensible.
Normally you never want to allow a knight into f5 in any middle game, right? Or any endgame. So g6 stopping this knight jumping in, but this gives away some squares too. Will the white bishop jump in now, do you think? Or
yeah, bishop to h6 maybe to attack the rook. And then maybe rook c8. Yeah, I'm curious what Magnus has in mind, but I think g6 has to be played to stop knight f5, as far as I can see.
Yeah, so this move, I mean, it's first instinct, right? Just so natural, because what else? But the consequences will be that white jumps in with the bishop, gains a bit of time, and I'm trying to find the follow-up. This knight is a bit offside now. That's the one downside for Magnus, but if he can reroute it later on, if he can, for example, gain time and maybe reroute this knight towards the center, then maybe he can go for black's isolated pawn in the middle of the board.
But then again, with both kings on that side, wouldn't it be nice to have some pieces on that side as well?
Possibly, although now the queens are off, it's unlikely there'll be any checkmates as long as both sides keep control over their back rank. For example, here, black shouldn't get greedy and capture a pawn with his rook because the white rook would actually trap the black king. This will end in checkmate. So as long as you keep control of your back rank for both sides, the kings should be relatively safe.
So does that mean in a game like this, the big aim is to promote a pawn to a queen?
Eventually.
So it's going to be at some point maybe a pawn race if we get that far.
Yep. And also targeting weaknesses. And in this position, I think black's main weakness is this guy. It's isolated, and if you can somehow reroute your knight to attack it, you'll be doing great with white. But then again, black, if black can maybe attack this pawn, a backward pawn later on, then black has some chances too. So definitely in the balance right now, but both sides have something to hope for.
Feels like a very different game from game 3 because we already lost a bunch of pieces on the board. Magnus has played super quickly. And Nepomniachtchi, he definitely has taken some pauses.
And the plans seem to be pretty clear-cut, as David kind of highlighted. You know, white has a target to attack the weak pawn in the centre. Black is banking all their hopes on actually this protected pass pawn, which is the best type of pawn there is on the board. And so, I mean, both sides definitely will be wanting to put their pieces on their natural squares. And in that sense, it is completely different to games 1 and 2, which were kind of murky, very unclear positions. Neither side knew entirely what they were doing.
Are you guys slightly surprised that the evaluation bar has gone over to black side here? I mean,
yeah,
the computer says 0.8 for black.
That can't be accurate, I think, because
not.
Magnus is clearly still in preparation. He has played fast, so I think the computer he has looked with must be deeper than this one.
Yeah. I mean, we're using Stockfish here, which is a very strong engine, but probably they've been using Stockfish on higher processors, and maybe they've been looking with Leela 0, the neural network engine, which often gives different evaluations. So this one, let's ignore the evaluation bar for now. I reckon it's still in the balance with best play.
It's going to be interesting how much time Jan is going to spend here, because it plays a very big role who starts to think first, like who is better prepared. So let's say if Jan would spend like 10 minutes here or 20 minutes, that would be kind of a opening victory maybe for Magnus, because then he's better prepared and might get a better position. I think that's important. So we'll see if Jan is going to play fast now, or he will think more.
Yeah, it's really interesting as well. We just see the Stockfish kind of suggestions there for black, and Stockfish does suggest your move, pushing the black pawn to g6 to stop the white knight coming in as the best move for black by a mile. and it's also the most natural, so we'll probably see it on the board. Black could also develop the knight. It's actually not as bad as it looks, apparently, although it looks pretty bad in the line that we showed.
Yeah.
I guess the justification would be that black can challenge the rooks after the white knight jumps in. Maybe that would maintain the balance for black, but yeah, I'm expecting that pawn push to be played, and then and then we'll see the justification.
It fits in with everything we've been saying. Control the knight circuit, and there you go. The pawn move is on the board.
Yeah, that was interesting. Nepomniachtchi, we saw him fiddling with a piece, and then somehow he still managed to make his move without breaking that kind of fidgeting routine. So
multitasking.
So I do want to put to you a question from Rahul on Twitter, who asks us, thinks it's going to be another exciting day, but they're curious by how many ELO points, ELO rating points, will Magnus or Nepomniachtchi increase if they win the championship?
It's a good question, and that actually depends on the score. So Magnus, for example, could win. He could win by just 1 point. He could win 6.5, 5. Oh wait, no, 7.5, 6.5.
Yeah, exactly.
He could win 7.5, 6.5, and I think he'll still lose a bunch of rating points because every game that is drawn, he'll lose 1 or 2 points, and any game he wins, he'll gain 6. So, yeah, it will still balance out. And meanwhile, white has played a move, not the pawn move I was suggesting, but a similar idea, just pushing that pawn 2 squares forward, and maybe just creating a square for the white knight to jump back to, the square that pawn used to sit on, and then reroute itself.
So what do you think about this pawn move? Because I must admit, my mouth dropped a little bit, because one thing that I've always been taught is, like, you should always try to block your opponent's diagonals. And with that pawn move, you've just allowed that bishop to have free reign towards the h2 square. I know, I understand it's not a middle game, so to speak, because this is an end game, so king safety doesn't play so much of a role. But what do you think? Surprising?
I like the move. It's very aggressive, and as David pointed out, the important plan is you want to reroute the knight from h4 to g2, because it's really not doing much on h4 anymore after black played pawn to g6, so it can never go to f5. You want to get it to g2. So let's say if black were to play knight d7 now, develop the knight, then you can play knight to g2. And at some point, if white gets time, it would be great if he could play pawn to g5.
Okay, so
or knight to e3 first. Yeah, pawn to g5, and then if white's knight would get to e3 now, suddenly we see the pawn on g5 is doing a really good job, because black cannot really protect the pawn. Like, usually he would have to go knight to f6, but that pawn on g5 restricts him. So, and also Magnus played it fast, so he should be pretty confident.
Yeah.
Now, the bar, the initial reaction after Magnus's move was that it actually jumped up quite a bit for Jan Nepomniachtchi, and it was thinking for quite a long time, the computer, before it corrected itself towards the middle. You said that this looked quite aggressive for Magnus, this pawn move. What can you say about the game so far then? Is it looking like Magnus is going to be ambitious in this game?
It looks a bit calm now, because the queens are traded off, and it's almost symmetrical, but we see the pawns are a bit different on the queen side. But Magnus is definitely looking aggressive at the same time, because he's playing very fast, and there is this imbalance with the pawn on d5 being weak and the pawn on c3 being weak. So also it feels like this is kind of Magnus' position. He's usually very good in these endgames, while Jan is known to be a very aggressive, dynamical player. So maybe he thinks that he's pretty happy with this opening where he can put some pressure on Jan.
Do you think this is more a Magnus type of position compared to game 2, where it was Catalan, it was really wild, it was really fun to watch, but maybe Magnus felt a bit uncomfortable in those complications? Do you think he's just going back to basics now?
Yeah, Magnus has been known for being the best player to grind out these slightly edge endgames. So
he's done it against us, right?
Yeah.
Many times.
Yeah, against me and against you.
Against me.
In Norway chess, I experienced that. And I think he would be pretty confident even if he gets a slight edge in the endgame. Like, if black plays precise, it might end in a draw, but he's not risking anything, and he seems to be in preparation, so I think he's happy with this. So Jan played knight to d7, as we said was logical.
Yep. The knight was going nowhere else.
Yeah, developing the knight, and now I think Magnus is probably going to play his knight to g2.
quickly again, you think? At pace?
I guess so, because the knight is really not doing anything on h4, so it will go to g2.
There we go. Magnus does retreat his knight, as expected. And maybe this will be the first big, long think we'll see from Nepomniachtchi, because it's a critical moment already, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, how would you organize the pieces if you were playing with the black pieces?
Good question, Jovanka. I would probably sit there for 20 minutes trying to figure out where to put the black pieces, especially where to put that black knight, which lacks kind of a stable square from where to protect its central pawn. So,
I mean, because the alternatives are like you just ignore the central pawn and maybe go on the counterattack. So the moves that I'm thinking of, maybe developing the knight, attacking a pawn and getting ready to spring in with that knight into the center. Other things I see are just putting the rooks to an open line, the C line, attack the pawn.
Attack this backward pawn.
Yeah.
You could do a combination of those, I guess. This would maybe just force white to defend passively with a bishop. And if now you jumped in, or if you want to jump in any time, you know what I'm going to suggest.
I know exactly what you're going to
David
suggest.
move.
Do not push the pawn.
I'm going to push this pawn
exactly,
and control
you're
these two squares.
Exactly.
It's a pretty good move.
But he answers quite fast here, Jan Nepomniachtchi.
Okay, he does go for this move, actually, just trying to attack a pawn. It's a backward pawn, very sensible.
I'm very curious. Do you guys think Jan is still in preparation or not?
Surely not, right? It's such a... I mean, how could you prepare this unless Magnus has played such a line before?
But it's very surprising to play so fast, because they are on move 20 and...
Unless this knight move, or move 18, that Magnus has played, was the top suggestion of the computer. Okay, it's not on this particular one, but I imagine if you're working with supercomputers, which both of the players are, and if the computer says, hey, this is the best move with this idea, then maybe they are both in prep, because they both seem to be blitzing out the moves.
And look at Magnus there. He's looking down, but I don't think he's looking at the board. He's just trying to, again, go back into his memory palace and try and pick out what the best moves were there. He's just trying to remember his analysis, I think, rather than calculate anything new.
Well, what do you think, Arjan? Are they in opening prep?
I actually think so. I feel they have to be, because why would you play, for Jan, why would he play that move so fast if you have like 1 hour and 40 minutes on the clock and it's move 20? It's already like midway to move 40, so you have a lot of time. It wouldn't make sense to play so fast. I think he was like trying to remember when he spent 5 minutes some moves before.
So how rare is that in move 21 that we probably have two players in opening prep trying to remember the right move?
Yeah, it's relatively rare, especially because this isn't the most forcing variation. Sometimes there's I mean, for example, some lines of the Sicilian defense, there'll be very forcing lines where you have to memorize 20, 25 moves just to survive. But this one, there have been 5 or 6 options at every turn for both sides, especially earlier. Magnus, as Jovanka mentioned, he didn't choose the most popular line. He didn't choose the most popular continuation. So I'm 100% sure Magnus is in preparation, at least until this move, but for Jan to be as well, that would be mightily impressive.
Well, we have heard from Peter Heine, his coach, that their main goal is to get out of the opening. They want the two players to fight against each other because they think that Magnus then is the best player. Can we see that Magnus is trying that, to bring up something new with every single move?
He's definitely trying to do that. We saw before that he didn't choose the main move, but he was like choosing the second or third main move. His goal is to try to get him out of preparation, because if it's human against human, we all know like Magnus is the better player. So it feels bad for him when Jan plays rook to c8 fast. It just feels so good when your opponent starts to think and you know he's out of book and I know the position. Well, Magnus played fast now, so that's nice at least. Bishop to f4 is pretty surprising. We didn't...
But it's the computer's top choice, I have to say. Yeah.
I think he just spent 2 minutes there remembering and trying to work out what happens next, because I said there were no forcing lines, but this does initiate some really forced moves, right? I mean, if black now takes the bishops and black's rook can come and grab a pawn, we'll see lots of trades, lots of exchanges, and I wouldn't be surprised if Magnus has worked out what to do there past move 25.
There's an interesting variation now. If black were to trade off those bishops.
Okay, so black has to make a choice with this bishop. Either you run away or you trade, right? So if you take, which is the most natural.
Yeah, and then take the pawn on c3, looks logical. Then white can take the pawn on d5.
Okay.
And then the black rook has to move, let's say to c4 maybe?
Okay, c4, yep.
Or yeah, b3. Maybe Magnus has planned this move rook e7, which looks pretty strong.
You can jump into the position attacking black's knight, and this knight actually is tied down. This knight has to defend some pawns itself, but you can't defend it. If you try and defend this knight, then suddenly we see why positions with knights are so tricky, because this guy is going to deliver a deadly fork. We see rook takes knight, sacrificing, and a nasty double attack. So next move, white will take the black rook and be a piece up. So this is Magnus's idea, just to go extremely active, and if black does take and then take again, I think this is inevitable, right? White will take this pawn, and next move, guaranteed that he'll jump in with his rook. So does that beg the question of whether Jan should even take this bishop? For example, maybe he can retreat just to cover the square for the white rook.
I guess he's going to do that, because taking the bishop, the variation looks pretty forced. He's struggling to defend the d5 pawn, and then rook e7 was always in the air, as you showed.
Yeah.
So bishop f8 looks more logical. And then, yeah, I'm curious if Jan will also make that move fast. I hope he's going to be out of preparation now.
I mean, he's not on the board, but he might come back and play instantly.
Something tells me that they are both in preparation. And okay, this is not the strongest computer, I have to say, that I've got a computer engine. But the top choice is actually bishop takes bishop.
Bishop takes bishop.
Anything else is kind of like, it's a little bit passive.
Wow.
Yeah,
so
it's not necessarily about this move, it's about the follow-up, though, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he would love to play bishop takes bishop, but he needs to be 100% sure about how to kind of continue after that. And
yeah, then we probably missed some good move for black in that variation.
Trying to figure out what's.
I can run you through what the computer says.
Maybe after the rook does get to e7, maybe then black just moves the knight and just.
That's right.
Just gives the b6 pawn.
Yeah. So okay, we have to show this again because Magnus right now he's calculating. We see him head in hands. He's trying to work out this whole variation, and it's not actually to do with retreating the bishop. Jovanka, take us away.
Yeah, so it's bishop takes bishop, just like you guys said. Knight takes, and after these big captures, the rook takes pawn, the knight comes and jumps into the center, attacking the rook. Once again, you guys chose the most accurate plays. They wanted to put the rook on the d3 square, attacking the pawn. And then the big idea is that once the rook comes in, the knight just moves. And
safe at home.
The computers are saying, this is all good. Black has got it under control.
Wow.
White is teeny tiny bit better.
But maybe not enough to win. So this looks like it's losing a pawn. White can grab a pawn with his knight, but then the black rook just slides across. And a bit of a problem for white. This knight is attacked, this pawn is attacked. You can't keep everything together. And we could see a scenario, for example, if white's knight drops back, when everything just gets traded off. We could see a whole bunch of trades, and we could end up in a position like this one where it's just a dead draw. 3 pawns on one side against 3 pawns. And
how many moves is that, David? Just
this would be move 28.
Oh dear.
It's deep preparation.
But the players aren't allowed to offer a draw till move 40. So
they'll just move around
and repeat the position.
Yeah.
But imagine we could be in for a very short day, though, and Magnus head in hands. He won't be happy if that's the case.
No, this would be a bad day for Magnus.
So what can he do to avoid this then, and to bring it in?
Well, either he has to take a passive choice, which would not be the computer's top choice, or he has to kind of accept it is a pretty forcing variation, right? Is there any way to vary?
It's too late for a passive choice, Jovanka. If you want to play passive, if you want to keep the tension, maybe you just defend your pawn with your bishop and you say, OK, the game will go on and who knows what will happen. But now, after he's initiated all these trades, it's forcing, right? This is a capture, white has to take back.
Okay.
This is a capture, white should take back. It just goes on like that.
But honestly, I think we have to give big credit to Jan for his amazing preparation. It's really incredible. Like Magnus was choosing second move, third move of the main line, and then Jan just blitzes out, and he's so well prepared. And then I mean, Magnus didn't. Let's say if Jan were to trade the bishops and take the pawn, it would probably end up in a draw, the position we showed. But it's very hard for Magnus to assume that he will know that. You don't expect your opponent to just blitz out all those 25 moves and know a sideline.
Yeah.
And I was just going to ask you both, actually, if you were both second for Magnus, just say, and you saw the scenario where Nepomniachtchi has kind of predicted everything that you've prepared your I want to say student, but that's not the right word, Magnus for, would you be worried as a second?
Yep, it's demoralizing, right? It's like you throw everything at this guy and he just knows all the replies. He knows what to do. And,
does it mean like a change of strategy is needed?
Yeah, it's really hard to deal with. Like Magnus changed the first move, and testing Jan in Petrov goes for sidelines, and even there, he's like remembering all his stuff. So it's hard as a second what you should do then. But I guess you just have to like switch from opening to opening and hope for the best. Try to catch him in some sidelines.
Yeah. Like you could try 7 different openings with white, but then just if you catch them once, I mean, it looks like that hasn't happened today, but. I mean, I would be telling Magnus maybe to be less direct, because Catalan is quite a direct opening and there are lots of forcing lines. This one as well, it's just led to an endgame very quickly. But then again, if you choose a less direct line that maybe isn't necessarily the best objectively in a World Championship match, if it backfires or if you get outplayed as white, then that isn't necessarily a good choice either. So, yeah, it's not risky at all, this variation for white, but the reward is not great either.
Yeah. I also have a question from Chess X Dronza, who asks, do you think that this long number of draws in the World Championships previously and now is actually getting to Magnus more than his opponents? Is he pushing himself now?
That's a very good question. I know in 2018 he was getting frustrated with all those draws, and also at the time he was world #1, but he was only a couple of points ahead of Fabiano Caruana, and I think he was just too scared to lose, because if he lost one game, Caruana would have overtaken him as world #1. So all of those draws, I think he found it frustrating, and Karyakin as well, when there were a few draws in the middle of that match, he was finding that mightily annoying. But this one is still early, so I don't think it's on his mind too much, but if it's all draws up until the halfway point, maybe we'll see him crack, and yeah, it wouldn't be the first time we've seen Magnus frustrated.
Yeah.
How about you? What do you think?
Definitely, it feels more frustrating for Magnus than his opponent, because he's like the challenger, and draws are completely okay. I mean, he doesn't mind it, but Magnus feels like he's the best chess player, so he really wants to win some classical games, and the fact that Jan let's say if he makes a draw easily here, it just feels really bad with white that you can't put any pressure on him even. Because for Magnus, the goal in the opening is just to manage to get a game, but that's not easy these days when your opponent is so well prepared. Yeah, it's tough. He has to think about some other opening for the next game, I think.
Imagine 18 World Championship match games in a row with a draw for Magnus, if this one is a draw. That is a huge number. None of the games against Caruana in 2018 ended up with a winner. Everyone has predicted that that's not going to happen in this one. It's 14 games, 2 more games. You can take some more risks. The styles of these two players, people are saying there will be some decisive games. Do you still think they will, David?
I'm 99% sure we will see some blood. We will see some decisive games. I think 14 draws in a row is so unlikely.
Yeah.
I think especially as we kind of, in the second half of in the match, I think players will be starting to take more risks here and there, or maybe starting to lose their patience. Nepomniachtchi there, just looking off to the side, slightly strange body language. One thing I should say as well is that on birthdays, it's very rare to see draws.
Oh!
Normally, players, they win on their birthday or they lose on their birthday. Like 2 weeks ago, I lost on my birthday. There is a bit of a birthday curse, but Magnus, of course, has won on his birthday a few times. And yeah, it's very strange to see a quieter game. So maybe there's still some life left in this one.
Yeah. And we're going to head down to Dubai. Tanya is standing with the father of the birthday boy, Henrik Carlsen.
Absolutely, Kaja. We are inside the Chess 24 lounge where Team Magnus is, and with me is Magnus's dad, Henrik. Hi, Henrik.
Hi there.
Firstly, congratulations on Magnus's birthday.
Thank you.
Tell me, how was it? Have you guys celebrated already on the rest day, or is it going to be tonight?
Frankly, today they're playing an important chess game, so I know that there's one thing he's hoping for on his birthday, but with regard to cake, that's going to be tomorrow night, I think.
I do see a nice cake on one of the tables here.
That's for me.
All right, that's all for you now. Henrik, tell me one thing. Does Magnus enjoy playing on his birthday?
Yeah, I mean, playing it World Championship match is pretty serious business, and he's not even turning around numbers. So I think today it's all about the chess game. We had a rest day yesterday, he played some football. I think he's enjoying himself, hopefully.
Now, when we met you last, Henrik, it was at the start of the match, and now we're 3 games down, we're into game 4. There must be a certain routine that must have been established. Can you tell us a little bit about a normal game day? What's that like for Team Magnus?
Well, of course, Magnus wants to get up at a certain point, and then we need to prepare some food. And it's a bit uncertain whether he wants 1 or 2 meals, and we kind of have to make sure that things are efficient and pleasant for him, and if he wants some activities, that the right people are available. And then by now, as you say, we know the routine with the cars and the entrance, and that works very smoothly. So now it's up to the players, and I think we're going to have a fun game today as well.
And is there any special right before the game sort of a routine that Magnus has just at the start to get into the zone of playing?
Yes, but that's a secret.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. And you were mentioning about having this support system around to make sure that everything goes according to plan. Yesterday, there was this football game. We saw a lot of Magnus's friends and family around him. Of course, that's huge support. But is there also purpose and intent to make it as normal as possible in this very high-tension match?
That's a very good point, and therefore, like the fact that his sister's son, 1-year-old, is there, is maybe also important, because that's an element that is kind of innocent and open, and you need to kind of relax in any possible way that you can and forget about the match.
Very nice. All right, and while I was in the Chess24 lounge, Henrik, I saw this amazing book, A Life in Pictures of Magnus Carlsen. Let me try and get it up. It's this one, and I want to bring your attention to this photograph right here. And it says, it says, a year off from school to travel to chess tournaments all over Europe. When you look at this, and you look at Magnus, I don't know, how old was he here?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. 12 maybe? 13 probably.
And now you see him fighting for his 5th World Championship title. It's been a long journey. You've obviously been through it. What is that one human quality that Magnus has that's bought him so far?
He really wants to win.
And speaking of really wanting to win, I'm sure this one has some good memories to it.
Absolutely. Of course, the first World Championship match is something unique, larger than life, as I think I mentioned.
This was in Chennai 2013, so looking at it after almost 8 years, still brings up good memories?
It's like yesterday.
All right, thank you so much, Henrik, for your time. And yes, that is Magnus's dad with a sneak peek into Magnus's life outside the board.
Thank you so much, Tanya, and it's really nice to hear from Henrik Magnus. He really wants to win. We had quite a few moves on the board. It's exactly what David and Arjan and Jovanka took us through. What do you say right now for the position, Simon?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have to echo what David, Jovanka and Arjan said, basically, that I'm very impressed with Jan's preparation. This was a line I don't think anyone could really predict that would occur on the board, and it seems like Jan is just finding all the top moves, and it's basically followed the analysis that was discussed, and you have to say it's going to head towards a draw. I mean, there's still play left. They have to make 40 moves, so something could happen, but extremely impressive preparation from Jan, which I did not expect myself in a line where Magnus is playing sort of 3rd or 4th choice.
Yeah.
I think opening-wise, it's always easy to say in hindsight what you should do. I know David himself, when he plays, he plays, I think as Magnus even said, old man chess. You know, he plays the reti, he plays stuff where you keep a lot of pieces on the board, and I'm just wondering if later on in the match, if Jan's preparation is going to be so strong, if maybe you know, this is something Magnus should try to do, just play something where the pieces remain on the board, where you don't have forcing lines like this. So it's yeah, maybe something will have to change. We'll have to wait and see.
Magnus, the world champion, he is thinking. We're going to go back in chess history and talk about another world champion now, Simon. It's the 5th one in the line of world champions, Max Öwe. Quite a difficult last name to pronounce, Max Öwe. What was he known for?
Well, Max Öwe was a world champion for quite a short period of time, and I think it was a big surprise at the time when he became world champion, because he took the throne from Alekhine, and Alekhine was probably the stronger player at the time, but it was said he was maybe a little bit arrogant, you know, a little bit overconfident, maybe even was drinking a little bit too much at the time. There was a rumour. But Max Euwe from Holland, Holland's only ever world champion, came along and he won the world championships. And Max Euwe was a very exciting player, very like full frontal attacks. So he goes straight for his opponent king, and his games are really nice to watch, because I think they're quite, in some ways you could say, simple. You saw his opponent's king, he attacked it, and he was very exciting world champion. And in Holland they even have the Max Euwe Centre, which is really cool. I've been there myself. Nice library in the centre of Amsterdam. And of course he's a bit of a hero over there. So
and I heard rumours, so he was a mathematician, and you know, that's maybe something that most people would think, that are all chess players really good at math? Would that be your favourite subject in school?
There is. If I speak to any non-chess players, they sort of assume, OK, you're good at chess, you must be really clever. And then they sort of get to know me, and they're like, actually, forget about that. But they actually, in general, they think there's a relationship between maths and chess. And I don't know. I don't think many studies have been done this. Maybe there's more of a relationship between chess and stuff like music. You know, be a bit creative as well.
Like Aronian, right? He's very into classical music.
Yeah, like Aronian, like other people as well. That could be possible. I expect if you do excel at chess, you have to be able to study, you have to have good concentration. So it's generally going to be a good thing. He was also an amateur boxer, apparently, which is quite crazy. Don't know if
maybe that's where chess boxing comes from then.
Possibly. Yeah, he doesn't really look like a boxer, but you never know. And he was, like I say, just a really interesting world champion, and played some great full frontal attacking chess.
You have a position up on the board here.
I do. So this was a game he played with the black pieces against Tartakova, another leading chess player at the time. And you can see that black's pieces on the board here are sort of all surrounding the white king. And again, I think this demonstrates the sort of his attacking play, where you have your opponent's king, you have your rook, queen, they're sort of hovering around there, and you've got to find a way to break defences down. And he loved sacrificing. He would always spot opportunities to attack, and he now went in with a check, and this is attacking the king and the queen. It has to be captured, and that's one piece he's sacrificed. And now he goes for a second sacrifice here. He uses the rook, and this is drawing the king further down the board. So the king really has to take this rook now. And the whole point of this play is that his queen can swing over to this square, giving another check. And eventually you have a check here, and you will pick up this queen and win the queen, or checkmate. So it was like these combinations where he went straight for his opponent's king, which made him a really attractive player. Really, really nice to watch, and simple attacking chess.
Yeah, beautiful. Now, he wasn't world champion for that long. Only 2 years. He was, I guess, maybe a clear #1 in his era as a world champion. But you mentioned he was into boxing, obviously the only Dutch world champion as well. Does he still have influence on chess today? Is he one of those who had big influence on chess later on?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think so. I mean, just the whole fitness thing we've mentioned before. But if you go back to maybe the first kind of world champions, they were notoriously not that fit. But you can see now with Magnus Carlsen on the rest day, he was out there playing football. He keeps himself incredibly fit. And this idea of exercise, being healthy mind, healthy body, is really important. And if you're playing 14 games of chess day after day, then you've got to be able to stay awake. You know, and not make mistakes. So I think this is an important thing that we can see all the top chess players now. They take their fitness seriously.
Magnus Carlsen is still thinking about his next move now. Max Euwe, the only Dutch world champion in history, but later on there has been some huge chess talent from the Netherlands, Anish Giri, Jordan van Forest, and we're going to head down to Rune, who's standing at the Expo 2020 in Dubai at the Dutch Pavilion, and I guess there are going to be some people very proud of their former world champion, Rune.
Well, that is absolutely right. I'm here at the Dutch Pavilion. Here to talk first a little bit about Max Euwe. So he may not have this great legacy as the great champion that maybe Aljechin has, but he actually has a huge legacy that not a lot of people know about. Every single time you play a game of chess, you are in touch with Max Erve. Because he was, as you discussed, a mathematician. And back in his day, the draw rules for threefold repetition was that if you repeat a position, if you repeat a sequence of moves 3 times, the position will be declared a draw. As a mathematician, Max Erve sat one evening looking at the board, and it occurred to him that you can actually have an infinite game of chess under these rules. He developed something called the 2A more sequence to prove this, and he had to become FIDE president and change the rules so we can have the threefold repetition rules we have now. And we also have, as you said, some Dutch person here who may be very, very proud. If you could just step one, yes, thank you very much, of the great Max Erve. This is Magnus. Magnus, do you happen to be a fan of the other Magnus?
Of course. I'm so excited that he's playing here at Expo today. And actually, I heard it's his birthday, so I'm wishing him all the best of luck, and hopefully he wins today.
Well, and as a Dutchman, do you know who Max Erve is?
Yes, Max Erve is one of our Dutch legends, Dutch Grandmaster, the first one actually. And he was known for being one of the most logic players of all time. So always very objective, never taking any unnecessary risks while playing chess, and always putting the right position in place.
That's very interesting. Magnus, can you tell me, besides being a chess fan and obviously being happy to be here for the World Championship, what are you working with here at your pavilion?
Yeah, so just like chess, the Netherlands Pavilion, it's a strategic game. So the question is, how can we create a circular biotope in the desert where it's more than 45 degrees? And so here the Netherlands ingenuity, not just logic, but creativity as well, we presented an innovative solution that allows us to capture water from the air and harvest the whole ecosystem of edible plants, including oyster mushrooms.
Well, thank you. That is absolutely fascinating, Magnus. I hope you enjoyed this small segment. And now back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you so much, Rune. At the Dutch LAN, where, of course, they're very proud of Max Erve, the only Dutch world champion in history. Magnus Carlsen, Norwegian, the only Norwegian world champion. Thinking for now almost 10 minutes. What is he thinking about?
I think it's a philosophical question. Does he continue fighting just for the sake of trying, or does he force a draw and kind of go back with his tail between his legs thinking, OK, it's a draw with white, it's not bad, but it hasn't been great either. And right now, maybe we can just show a couple of variations, because Magnus, he's in calculation mode. Maybe his opening preparation continues, maybe it's run out already, but if he takes this pawn, I think we'll see a quick draw. If he takes this pawn, the black rook will slide across, and no matter where white goes with the knight, black's rooks will start gobbling up these pawns, and actually all of the pawns on the queen side will just disappear. We'll liquidate the position, and it will just end up in a draw. If Magnus, however, wants to play ambitiously, if he wants to try and win, he might give a check. And actually, just while Rune was talking there, myself and Arian and Jovanka, we were discussing what might happen. So the black king would have to move, white could give another check. Maybe Magnus could force a draw like this. He could continue checking with his knights. But if he wants to win, he could maybe push forward with a pawn, hoping for rook takes pawn with a nasty knight check, knight fork, attacking and winning one of the black rooks. But if black ignores this and pushes his own pawn, then we could see a race. The white pawn will run forward, the black pawn will run forward, and white could even push forward now because there are still some knight forks. For example, knight takes pawn, white could give up rook temporarily and win material with a nasty double attack. But the problem is you do allow black's pawn forward, and I mean, a position like this, it involves so much risk for both sides. But I mean, Magnus, unless he thinks that he's forcing a win here, I don't reckon he can go for this. It's just
too much risk, right?
A minimal reward as well. I mean, maybe best case scenario, these pawns kind of get traded off for each other somehow, and it would end up in a draw anyway. So, world champion, head in hands, deciding what to do. And what do we think, guys? Is this the moment for guess the move? Because we might not get another opportunity. Is this the moment? So Magnus, he's going to bring his knight forward with a check, or he's going to take a pawn on the queen side. And come on, guys, it's guess the move time.
at home to tweet what move you think Magnus Carlsen will make. Maybe you only have a few seconds, maybe only a few minutes, so you have to be quick. Tweet your moves to C24 Live.
Yeah, because there's an awesome prize at stake. It is 1 year membership of G-Chess, which is the first ever website where you can just put up a chess position and you can search that position on chess databases, chess articles, Chessable, and of course, YouTube. So it's an amazing prize, and you've got to tweet your answer using the hashtag C24Live.
And I guess the big question then, Arian, is if Magnus is forced to maybe put this in a very forced kind of drawish situation, or if we will see some ambition from him.
Unfortunately, at this point, I think we're on move 26.
Yeah.
Like, Jan has played so accurately. Magnus looks a bit frustrating. I mean, he's not too thrilled to see this. He cannot really do much. I think he has to either take the pawn or give the check on f6, as David showed. And then I think he's gonna, if he checks on f6, I think he's gonna check on e8 and back to f6 with a perpetual. Or if he takes on b6, those pawns on the queen side are gonna be traded off, and we're gonna see a draw. I can't really see what he can try. I mean, he's really like desperately trying to find some life in the position, but it's very hard to see it.
Yeah. If you were in Magnus's shoes right now, would you at least spend 10, 20 minutes just trying to figure out if there is a way to maybe force Nepomniachtchi to be accurate?
I mean, he has so much time, so if he spends like 20, 30 minutes just to double check, he can definitely do that. Like, he has nothing to lose.
Yeah, you don't take that time with you, I guess, to the next game, so you might as well spend it now.
Yeah, but I guess he knows that he doesn't have anything, and within the next 5 minutes, I think he's gonna just realize that he has to go for the draw. Because why would he? Maybe he doesn't want to spend too much energy. We'd either just get finished with the game and rest for the next one.
Yeah. All right. Well, we do have guessed the move, everyone. So tweet what you think will be the next move for Magnus Carlsen. We're going to head down to Dubai and hear what the people around these two players think will be happening in this game now.
Thanks, Kaja. I think definitely a puzzling decision here by Magnus. Many of us, him coming out of the rest day with the white pieces, were expecting something slightly more aggressive, but it has been a Petrov, and it looks like the world champion hasn't got much out of the opening. To take us through what's happened, I've got with me Grandmaster Hans Niemann. Hans, first question. Were you surprised with 1e4?
I was definitely surprised with 1e4. I felt that in the Catalan, Magnus had great preparation. He surprised him really well. Jan was forced to make some difficult decisions. And despite Magnus sort of overpressing in that game, I really felt that his preparation was great. So I was surprised that he didn't go for the Catalan again. But I think in e4, maybe he felt that Jan was a target. And the Petrov is certainly also another huge surprise. I did not expect that, for sure.
Very different from the usual night-off stuff we see from Jan.
Yeah, I think the Jan that we're seeing here is really, he's impressed me with his opening play. I think although we see the position sort of petered out into a very drawish position, the preparation that Magnus showed was really impressive, I think, and this whole idea was... I was really impressed, but Jan just seems to be stone cold and just brush it off and just equalizing without any problem. So I've been really impressed with the Jan that we've seen in this match, and, I'm looking forward to the future games. So.
Well, you spoke to Vladimir Potkin earlier, and he mentioned, well, it is the Russian defense, so can't be all that surprising, but completely agree with you. Petrov will be interesting to know if Magnus was expecting it or not. Can you take us through a couple of critical moments in the game?
Yeah, so there were a few critical moments. So obviously, e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6. I don't think that this was such a huge surprise. Like, in these matches, all of the top players are preparing for all the main openings. So it's not like Jan plays the Petrov and Magnus is like, oh, I've got nothing. I'm sure he's got so many ideas against Petrov in his back pocket, but I don't think he was sort of focusing on it. So,
and let's not forget, I mean, this was a main opening in the 2018 World Championship match as well.
Yeah, this is sort of Fabiano's main opening. So I think we all, there's no question of whether, the question is not whether Magnus is prepared against Petrov a lot. Like, there's probably so many ideas left over from this match against Fabiano. So it definitely wasn't a surprise, but I guess considering how things gone, Jan definitely was a success for him.
All right, so how did this continue?
So continue with knight takes e5, d6, knight f3, knight takes e4, d4, d5.
All this is pretty typical.
This is all pretty typical. This is sort of regular theory. Now, bishop d6 is this is sort of one of the main lines. Now, after castles, c4. The idea is sort of putting pressure in the center. The knight in e4 is really critical. So after c6, there are a few ideas here. The main line is actually knight to c3, and after this trade, there's really deep theory. Like the Petrov is very concrete opening, so it's very important that you know a lot. So Magnus chose to play rook e1, which is sort of another secondary move, and Aronian has played this a lot recently after bishop f5, queen b3, queen d7. Now, I knew this position, I've seen this position many times, but the move knight c3 definitely was a surprise. It's clearly, offering some liquidation, and after knight takes c3, you don't take back immediately because of the bishop hanging. Intermezzo move, bishop takes f5, and after queen takes f5, b takes c3, it seems like we've traded off some pieces. It seems like black is okay, but there's still some pressure, right? Because of this b7 pawn, there's some tension between the pawns on c4 and d5. So after b6, pawn takes d5, pawn takes d5. This idea queen b5 is really interesting because it's sort of putting pressure, asking the question of how black's going to develop the pieces, right? Because knight d7 is a little bit awkward. Maybe this c4 idea, taking advantage of the pin on, here on the queen. So
you got to watch out for moves like knight h4.
Yeah, exactly right. This d5 pawn is definitely the central idea of putting pressure on this. So Magnus decided to play queen d7, and it should be noted that you can't play queen takes d5 because of bishop takes h2, very common idea opening up the attack on the queen. So I think this was even perhaps no preparation, playing a4. And
so all this has been played before, by the way.
Really? Okay, it has. So that's not surprising. The Petrov is an extremely theoretical opening. So after the trade of queens, Jan played a5, which is a very natural move because this pawn is really restricting the natural development of the knight. And if you didn't, let's say if you played a move like knight d7, in the long terms you can't play a5. This is sort of a backwards pawn, and it could be a big weakness. So a5 is sort of creating, a passed pawn. So it's a question of whether you want to take it or you want to leave it. So here's where Magnus' preparation is sort of unleashed, right? He plays the move knight h4, essentially threatening out of 5, and if you make the bishop move, then you could have some check on e7 winning the pawn. So after g6, now this is where he's still continuing with the preparation, g4.
Just to point out, Hans, that actually Magnus made the move knight h4 in 35 seconds.
Wow.
So that's definitely, he's still in prep. And then Jan took about 5.5 minutes and made the move g6, as you were pointing out, against the idea of knight f5. So do you think this is the moment when Jan was out of his books?
I think so. I think this idea with knight h4, g4 was his team probably said, okay, this is a new idea. He's definitely not going to do it because it's not something that the computer initially suggests. So this is sort of how his team is probably approaching it. But I guess the natural moves here led to some type of equality. So after knight to d7, the knight comes back to g2. The idea is to bring the bishop to f4. Again, the entire play is around attacking this d5 pawn, which is isolated. So after rook f to c8, bishop...
White's got a weakness.
Exactly right. So it's sort of a fight between who's going to get to, who's going to get to c3, or are they going to get to d5 first? So I guess it's sort of balanced out after bishop to f4, bishop takes f4, knight takes f4, rook takes c3, and now after knight takes d5, rook d3, rook e7, knight at fade, we've reached the sort of the position that we have in the game. And the unfortunate thing for Magnus is, although he showed this amazing idea with knight h4, g4, it's just it really looks like it's about to liquidate. Like there's so few pieces left on the board. There's not really like an imbalance in this position that can lead to provoking a direct mistake, right? With d4, g4, b5 is a little bit weak. I just don't really see how either side is going to create an imbalance enough to create a decisive result. So I think here things are going to liquidate soon. There's a possibility of sort of a forced draw with knight f6, king g7, knight e8. A repetition, right? And at this point, you don't really want to go to h6. It's a bit awkward, and after knight d6, there'd be some unfortunate pressure. And then, obviously here could lead to repetition. And after king g8, knight f6, this would be a forced draw. So obviously, I think Magnus is thinking, can he pose any serious pressure here? Does he have to take a draw? It's sort of an unfortunate, as with the white pieces, it's tough psychologically to make that decision. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I definitely think that Jan's defense against Magnus' idea was very impressive today.
So would you say that, looking at this opening, that Jan definitely had the opening victory today?
I wouldn't. It's unclear to say opening victory. I would say that the idea that Magnus played was extremely impressive, and I would say that that itself was an opening victory. But I would say that the way that Jan responded to that and handled that pressure is sort of outside of the scope of the opening per se, and more impressive from a practical perspective. So I would say that in general, Magnus has been showing really impressive opening ideas, but Jan has been defending extremely well against them.
Well, there we have it. Grandmaster Hans Niemann breaking down the opening action for us. And we've got a move by Magnus, so let's head over to the studio.
Thank you so much, Sanna. And yeah, after 22 minutes, the move is on the board.
Yeah, I was just going to say that was a really impressive recap of the whole game by Hans Niemann there.
I have to admit, I fell off a little bit, a lot of notation. So what's happening?
So yeah, Hans was just talking about the opening, some nuances there, and talking actually about the position and discussing the risk involved for Magnus if he wants to play for a win. And talking of playing for a win, Magnus has given a check. We're not sure yet what his intentions are next, but we do have an answer to the guess of the move. White did play knight f6 check.
Exactly. All right, well, we did have guess the move, so Jovanka is going to now look.
I'm going to sift through because there are a lot of responses, so thank you very much for that. And a lot of people saying knight check and a lot of people saying capture the pawn.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I like this decision by Magnus. He's still not risking too much. He can maybe repeat the position later by giving some kind of continuous knight checks. That's something as well that Hans discussed there. But he is also asking Nepomniachtchi maybe some questions if he wants to play on. That variation we showed earlier with Aryan, yeah, it does at least kind of pose Black one or two questions to answer. There we go. The first question has been answered. Black's king runs away from the check. That's the only safe square as well. Black's king needs to defend some pawns, and it puts some pressure on the white knight. For sure now, I think we're going to see white's knight go up to the top of the board and deliver another check. And it will be after Nepomniachtchi replies there that we will discover Magnus's intentions.
And currently no players by the board. Now, you did see Hans Niemann there with Tanya analyzing the game so far. And Hans Niemann, he actually makes a post-game course on Chessable every single day. It comes out impressively quickly after the game. And you can, of course, check that out on Chessable. The link is on the bottom here, and it's free for everyone to check out. So, you know, half an hour, maybe an hour after the game, you can, maybe that's too quick.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Hans is a strong player, good friend of ours, so yeah, recommend that course highly.
Exactly, yeah, check it out. Now, all right, Arjan, what do you think right now? Will this be fizzling out to a draw quite soon?
Well, now he's kind of forced to play knight to e8 check because the knight on f6 is hanging. So when Magnus comes to the board, I expect him to make that move pretty fast. And then Jan will play king back to g8 as we showed before. And then the question is Magnus just going to repeat the position and take a draw, or he could push the d5 pawn, and that pawn cannot be taken. As David showed, there is this fork, but Jan is obviously not gonna fall for that. He's probably going to push his a4 pawn. Magnus now made his move, knight e8.
So yeah, this is actually the current position on the board, and once Black does retreat the king, this will be the moment of truth. Will Magnus take the draw? Will he repeat and go back, or push this pawn forward? Aryan, you mentioned Black pushing. We had some discussions here, actually.
And Magnus can always take the draw even when they push d5, a4. So he could play d5 first and then play knight f6, knight e8. Yeah. Or he can push the pawn to d6. Black pushes the pawn to a3, so we have a race. Pawn to d7. And here it's an important moment because Black has to be a bit careful. He cannot push his pawn to a2 because White has a trick in the position. If he were to do that, then White can give a check with his knight on f6, king to g8, king to g7, and then you have this very strong move, rook e8.
Eliminating this rook and trying to force this pawn through, and actually White wins material, right?
Yeah, this looks bad for Black. So instead of pushing the pawn to a2, Black has to be a bit careful. But I think the move rook d8, just controlling the d7 pawn should hold.
Yeah, just ganging up on this guy 3 times now, and even if White has some annoying knight checks later on, I think Black should be okay here. It feels like this pawn will disappear. Maybe White can get this one in return, but still a draw. So that's the question. Does Magnus, once Jan makes his move, for example, retreating the king, does Magnus repeat the position now, or does he continue playing, knowing that it should be a draw anyway, but maybe along the way he can set some traps.
Is this next move sort of forced for Jan Nepomniachtchi? Obviously, he has to move his king, but could he move it to another square, not repeating?
Possibly.
But no.
It's maybe one risk too far.
Yeah. He just wanted to defend the pawn on the f7 square that the white rook who's maybe eyeing up. So,
So now the big question, right?
The big question.
Will Magnus move his knight back, repeating, or will he move his pawn? Those are those two the only ones?
To me, they're the only ones which really make sense.
Yeah.
Because you
any
have-
other options would allow the black knight to jump in or the black rook in the corner to activate itself.
Yeah, and also you have to remember that black has a passed pawn. You know, we showed a very scary line where black was advancing his pawn as far up the board. So I agree with you completely. You know, the time is now is what I wanted to say.
When there's a race or a potential race, every move counts.
Yeah. And I just wanted to announce that we do have a winner of our Guess the Move competition. The winner is Retro, who tweeted, "I'm thinking knight goes to f6. Check. You are spot on, and you are the lucky winner of 1 year's membership to GChess, which is the first ever chess website where you can just put up a position on the board and you can search that position on chess databases, chess articles, Chessable short and sweet, and YouTube, which always amazes me.
That's a cool
YouTube,
feature.
how on earth can you do that? But with GChess, you can. So congratulations, Retro, and enjoy working with GChess.
Well, GChess, another very cool online digital computer thing, which is very relevant in this match. I mean, have you ever, Arian, seen a World Championship match where computer prep has been this relevant? The players, you know, all the way up until move 20s are in computer prep?
Yeah, it's crazy. It gets more and more relevant for every World Championship match because the technology just goes forward. So let's say 10 years ago, the computer prep was much less relevant and it was much harder to be so deeply prepared. But the engine are just just getting so strong that you can prepare so deeply with them. Probably in 2 years it will even be more. So it's too much.
How can we get out of it?
It's impossible now. It's inescapable, I think. But yeah, as you say, if you compared this match to Carlsen's first match against Anand, I mean, I don't really remember any games that were decided purely because of computer prep or that fizzled out purely because both players had memorized everything. Of course, it affected the openings and the course of the game, but still the positions were always full of life in the middle game. And this one, game 2, was still full of life. But apart from that, computers have had a big say.
Is it becoming even more important with memory for chess players now then? To memorize these lines that you're analyzing on a computer?
Memory is so important because before the match you look at all these different opening variations, but you have so much time also, so you can remember them. Usually 1 month, 2 months before the match, you have all these files with opening analysis and you go through them every day just trying to remember, because if you don't remember them, then it's not really useful, So, but I'm sure Jan, he has probably played training games in this variation, gone through it many times. And the big problem these days is that it's just very hard on the top level to get a playable position with white, because black is just so deeply prepared.
How much does computer preparation affect your games these days, Arian? Do you do the same thing that I guess the players here have been doing? Do you employ teams? Do you study with computers before your big events?
Yeah, it's definitely also very important for me. I would say at a good GM level, opening preparation is maybe 85% important for sure. Yeah, because when you're a strong GM, you're a very good chess player, so the margins gets very, very small. And then if you get a good position from the opening, you have very good chances to win. But if you don't, usually a strong grandmaster would not make a mistake and you would not be able to win the game. So it's very important to be able to surprise in the opening. It plays a huge role.
But then also, as you mentioned then, memorizing all the stuff you study. How do you practice your memory? What is a tip for young chess players out there? How to practice the memory?
Yeah, memory is so important. And Magnus is known to have a very good memory, so usually when he sees something, he remembers it. And I think it's just before an event, going through your analysis and maybe play it on the board. For me, it's easier to remember when I see it on the board, or play some training games, maybe practice it in some blitz.
Are there techniques, though, to practice your memory?
I heard a story that when Fabiano Caruana was preparing for the World Championship, it took him months to memorize this, in fact, the same opening, the Petrov defense or Russian defense. And, they would practice every week. They would say, what happens? What are you going to do after this sacrifice? And he would have to repeat. Wow. And it was like Arian says, putting up a board and just practicing and getting that feel for where your pieces should go. And if you're, in a critical position where your king would escape to.
And it's about repetition as well. That's why chessable has become so popular, even among the really elite players in the world, just because you're forced to repeat things, you're forced to prove that you remember. And definitely that's something that I maybe have struggled with over the last couple of years, not playing as much over the board. It means you dedicate less time to purely memorizing, and that makes it kind of impossible to go into these really kind of critical, sharp openings against the top players, because if, for example, Nepomniachtchi had made one tiny slip on move 19, which is still quite deep, then he would have been in trouble. So, fine margins, and nowadays, memory's important. Of course, you can freestyle a bit if you choose certain types of openings, but that comes with a lot of risk.
Well, you are proof that it is possible, David, in the Grand Swiss.
For sure.
Yeah, you said that, you struggled in every single opening, but just getting out of the opening, you were able to get that amazing result.
Yeah, there was one game I got surprised on move 2. I sat there for 30 minutes just hating my life, hating myself. And but yeah, once you kind of get out of the opening, then you can feel a lot more confident. And it helped that I kind of played quite a narrow opening repertoire there, just the Berlin against everything and one knight f3 as white against everything. It's just...
that game you got surprised on move 2, you won against such a strong player.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
You can do it.
It wasn't smooth, but yeah, thank you.
You, of course, also played that event, Arian. You had a great start in the tournament, then a little bit,
Horrible finish.
Okay.
But the start was, amazing.
Yeah.
I think I never started so well. I had, a 28-30 performance, and everything was going well. And then I didn't win a game I was completely winning in game 7. And then I slowed down and missed many chances. So it was an unfortunate finish, but it was great to be there and play so many strong players.
Yeah, and finally an over-the-board tournament again. And what is your plans now going forwards?
Going forwards, I actually don't have any classical tournaments planned. I'm playing the World Rapid and Blitz in Kazakhstan in the end of December. Then over the new year, I haven't planned anything. I'm going to try to find some new tournaments in January, February. We'll see.
Yeah, Rapid and Blitz, that's going to happen right after this tournament or the World Championship match.
Yeah, I'm debating playing as well, but it's going to be so cold there. And
it's cold here too.
It's cold here too. Yeah, we'll see.
You're used to it.
Yeah, true. But Arian, we also know that you've been seconding for Anish Giri for a while. Is that something you will continue doing?
Okay, we have an answer from Magnus Carlsen. He does not repeat.
Okay, he does not repeat. He does not go for the draw. This is good news.
Great.
We still have some more action.
All right. So this is Magnus Carlsen saying, I'm going to try to push for a win.
Yeah, setting some traps as well. For example, if the black rook goes and takes this pawn, the white knight will jump back with a check, and Magnus will win on the spot. So definitely some pitfalls for Nepomniachtchi to avoid. Of course, he won't blunder into such obvious traps, but there are going to be some ideas lurking beneath the surface that he still has to work out. So.
I was going to ask something that was asked on Twitter. I mean, are there any possibilities that the white rook, that's not really working, it's in the corner of the board, is that able to, engage itself and put itself on the 7th row?
Yep, it would take a couple of moves, but once the rooks align, for example, if black just does nothing, if white can somehow get these rooks, they will be very, very dangerous. But this is the problem. You have to keep an eye on this pawn from... I mean, it's running very, very fast.
It is. What about, could it be a race, where maybe white is in time to do something?
Yeah, so in the current position here, it might well be a race, but the problem is if black pushes immediately, I think you're just a bit too slow with white. You can bring the rook across, the pawn pushes, you bring it up, and you're one move away from delivering a nasty checkmate. If black wasn't able to queen, or if it didn't come with check, for example, if black were to just make a move, this would end in the Arabian checkmate, Jovanka.
It would be, yeah.
You taught me the name. This would end in a very, very nice checkmate, the black king trapped in the corner by the white rook and knight, but the problem is the pawn is just too fast, and unfortunately, this guy would have been able to promote in this variation. So, great idea there from the audience, but depending on what Nepomniachtchi does, maybe just a bit too slow. I think these are Magnus's main ideas, though. If he gets time to bring the rook up and to the 7th rank to team up, or just to push his pawn and hope for the best.
All right, well, both of them looks amazing. You know, you always told me you want rooks on the 7th line, 7th heaven.
Yep.
True. If you can get them there, it's the dream. But of course, it takes a bit of time to arrange.
Yeah, the problem is that there's always 2 players playing chess, and you must never forget what your opponent wants to do.
That is what I always do when I play chess.
Well, don't worry, you know, I also played in the Grand Swiss, and that was my big failing. I thought, you know, I was going to pick up the points. I had so many good positions, but then my opponents, they threw a spanner in the works, as we say.
They had plans as well.
They did, and they did like to set some checkmating ideas out of nowhere.
But that's, yeah, you hadn't played for a while, Jovanka. I mean, the middle games you were playing fantastically, but it's just the killer instinct. That's the first thing that fades, I guess.
It was time trouble. I mean, that's perhaps something also what the players are very much aware of. You know, when you haven't played for a little bit, you know, you take a little bit of time to reach those critical decisions. And I had fantastic openings, fantastic middle games. And then things went wrong in the 4th hour, you know, when the clock starts ticking down. And that's when I neglected the one golden rule. Look after your king. And out of nowhere, you know, but, you know, it was a really good experience. And I'm playing again, actually. I'm going to be playing another tournament.
Oh, what is that?
In January. It's a very cool tournament.
Oh, what is that?
10 men, 10 women are going to be facing off against each other in the Battle of the Sexes.
Battle of Sexes. That is such a cool name for a tournament.
And the difference with this tournament is actually that on average, the men and the women are the same rating. So it's going to be very evenly matched.
All right.
I can't wait.
So is it like the women score points together and the men score points together?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Well, who's your bet on there, David?
Definitely the women.
Yeah. All right, we have to follow.
Such a gentleman.
No, not even joking. I mean, I've been in Gibraltar before where this event will take place, and always there's one evening where we play on giant chess sets. It's men against women, and that's where some of the top men in the world, like Vasil Graf, Caruana, Nakamura, they've all played, but the women always seem to win. So, okay, I thought there might have been a move there.
He was just Jan is funny. He always brings his own tea to the game. When I played in Norway chess, I also saw that. He doesn't like to take the tea or the coffee from the playing hall, but he likes to bring his own.
We saw that with in the tour final in the Champions Chess Tour with Anish. Anish kind of said, well, hang on a second, the tea here is a bit standard. And we brought in a very own tea person to come and serve them specialty tea. And I do know that's because, you know, some teas are very strong, especially some Russian ones. Okay, no, I'm talking about tea here. This is my favourite subject.
We'll be here for hours.
On and on and on.
Anish was enjoying that tea for sure.
Actually, that brings me back to the question about Anish. Will you continue your collaboration in future? Do you know?
I hope so, yeah. Well, he didn't really have any tournaments recently, but yeah, I might help him. We still keep in touch. Okay. So he's doing commentary with Judith now, so he's pretty busy.
The Chess 24 deep dive going on at the same time.
And of course, that's kind of to benefit him with his openings, his tournaments. But I guess you've picked up a few things along the way.
Yeah, for sure. No, since I started working with him, I learned a lot, and I'm really honored to get the chance.
I'm sure he's honored too.
Okay, so we know that the role of a second is very much, you know, to help with opening preparation. But what do you actually work on when you're actually in a tournament? I mean, is it mainly just psychological help, just saying the right things? Or...
Yeah, so it's mainly opening preparation and just social support. Just be there for him as a friend and cheer him up if he loses.
And how did you cheer him up when he lost? Or
just
anyone?
go for a walk. Just try to be supportive. Just.
Do you talk about the game, or do you try to talk about something else, like the weather?
After the game finishes, we definitely talk about the game. But let's say if it goes badly, you probably try to just switch off completely from the chess, think about something else. So you get some energy from somewhere else, and then. But if it goes well, it's more fun to talk about the game.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. Like when he, in the tour finals, he won the tie-breaks against Hikaru Nakamura in Blitz chess, right?
Yeah, that was a highlight. That was very cool.
Yeah, that must be, we could see him celebrate Anish Giri when winning that Blitz game. All right, we are waiting for Jan Nepomniachtchi to make his move. His next move, is that going to tell us if, I mean, he's going to be happy with a draw in this game, either way, right?
Yep, he's still facing some pressure as black. It's not completely dead, it's not completely neutralized yet. So he knows he needs to be accurate, Nepomniachtchi. I'm slightly surprised he spent so long, spending 7 minutes there, because this move, actually you called it a while ago, Arian, it's pretty much automatic, right?
Yeah.
It's not clear what else black could have done. His rooks couldn't have been improved, the black knight couldn't move.
And he needed to prevent the idea of the white rook on A1 joining in the game, because, you know, we saw that that was failing by one move.
He needs to start the race.
Yeah, exactly. And here you go, race initiated.
OK, and another critical moment as Magnus, I think he was just struggling there with his pen. Maybe it was running out of ink. But, OK, he's written down the move. And now, will he give a check with his knight, or is he going to push forward with a pawn?
I was curious about one idea, like if Magnus were to get very ambitious and push forward with a pawn, I mean, is there any hope for the black knight to activate itself? And in that kind of situation, maybe there would not be a repetition of moves anymore.
OK, the black knight could jump in now that the pawn has no longer controlling the square. And as you mentioned, Jovanka, if the white knight continues trying to draw, kind of repeat the position, then the black king has a new square.
Yeah, exactly. Say no, my friend.
No draw for you.
Yeah, that's an interesting move. I was thinking maybe if white can try to play a knight to c7 here.
Okay.
Just trading off those knights. So probably black will take. You take with the pawn. And now maybe a3 here. If you push the pawn with black, that would be a mistake. Or maybe not maybe not a mistake, but you can play maybe rook e1 here with white, double the rooks.
Wow, nice. Setting a trap. If the black king, for example, tries to cover this square to stop checking, then you check anyway.
Yeah, that's a nice move. Sacrificing the rook, and then you get a new queen.
You get a new queen. And white wins the race.
But it seems even that would maybe be a draw. Let's say if black pushes the pawn after...
In this position?
Yeah, a2.
Okay.
And white checks with the rook. Black takes. White takes, king up to g7.
So both sides ready to...
Both sides make a queen, and then...
And
we have queen and rook and 4 pawns against queen and rook and 4 pawns.
But it's not clear. I mean, for example, if white flicks in a check first, maybe?
Oh, that's a very good move, yeah.
I don't know, and the king has to come out. The black's king cannot take this rook because this would happen with check. So if the black king has to come out, I'm not sure which direction, then this type of endgame, still a lot of life left, right?
Yeah, because the king on h6 is actually in a bad situation. And usually in these types of positions, it's all about who gives the first check.
Yeah.
Because both kings are pretty unsafe. Yeah. And if white were to like check with the queen on f8 and then bring his pawns up with check, that could be pretty dangerous.
Then again, if there's no checkmate, if black can centralize and start going for the white king, then maybe white is in trouble. So it's really not clear here.
But that is an interesting variation if Jan were to go knight to e6.
Yeah, and that just shows, I mean, this type of long forcing variation, that shows there's still life. I mean, it looks like this is an endgame, it's about to fizzle out, or the pawns are getting traded, but one move, and then suddenly, I mean, this type of forcing variation with queens appearing on the board again, all 3 results possible. So, so in the current position, if Magnus pushes forward, then we'll see either black push or introduce his knight into the action, and anything can happen there. If Magnus wants to, oh, sorry, not this move. If Magnus wants to maybe play the safe approach, he could give a check and then either repeat the position. I was also wondering what would happen, for example, if white brings the rook up, just to try and threaten this guy in the corner. But maybe black just moves the rook. I was hoping for maybe a trade, and then depending on where the black king goes, maybe you can just take this pawn and hope that black can't take back in the center because of some knight forks, some knight checks. But if black chooses the right square with his king, maybe it's a draw anyway, a bit earlier on. So, yeah, in the current position, it's hard to find options other than pushing forward or this knight check.
Yeah, I think Magnus is just thinking to either force a draw here with knight f6 check, king knight e8, repeat the position, or play d6.
Yeah,
it's hard to say. What do you guys think?
I'm hoping he plays on. I'm hoping he plays and we play d6.
Yeah, it'll be more fun.
Even if it comes with a little bit of risk.
But I guess he can always like check on f6 even later. Let's say if white plays d6 here, and black pushes his pawn to a3.
Now you can still force draw with white.
You can still probably give a check on f6 with a knight and go back to e8. So Magnus always seems to have this option, unless the black king can go to h6.
Exactly. I was just thinking, what happens if the king goes rogue?
This way.
Yeah, I mean, it does look a bit risky because the king looks a little bit vulnerable.
But if you start running, you can
exactly
get active.
Yeah, maybe knight to c7 now.
Yeah, hitting this rook, and if the rook moves,
perhaps you can grab, take on f7, and the knight is actually sort of trapped.
Maybe I get this guy, but it's not enough, right? I can take a pawn with check.
Yeah, king f1.
And this guy might be trapped. Oh, wow, he is trapped. Yeah. Unless there's some tactics.
You're always tricky, David.
I'm a trickster. Attacking this pawn, and if you take my knight, I will give you a check, and I will push my pawn.
But then I have rook a8.
This one,
and still white's simply you make a queen, and then I take, and then suddenly black cannot stop the pawn on d7.
Okay, this is a fantasy variation.
Fantasy variation for sure. It's not realistic. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, but this is the type of thing that might be going through Magnus's mind, right? I mean, we know how good he is at calculation, and even though that variation was nearly 10 moves long, he will be looking that deep. I think he will be trying to work out the nuances. I mean, he has over an hour, and they've already made 28 moves. He might as well look for these types of lines.
But I think if Magnus is going to check with a knight, probably Jan will not go to h6. It looks a bit risky. Probably just go back with the king to g8.
Black, if black runs forward, it's playing with fire always.
Does Magnus have any other moves than pawn to d6 here? Because he's thinking.
Yeah, I mean, the other move you mentioned, bringing the knight across to attack the black rook. You mentioned this in a different scenario, but I'm not sure whether this would work out too well for white.
Because the pin is probably annoying.
And you can't go forward with your own pawn.
Now no longer. You can push forward because this pawn just gets gobbled up.
Yeah. Yes, you always have to control and defend your own pawn. So yeah, that's a very instructive resource for black.
Yeah, so it looks like either this one or near my arrows.
Yeah, and
knight check.
People on Twitter are saying they believe that Magnus will play the pawn move d6. They have faith that Magnus will play for a win on his birthday.
I have faith too. I think he's going to at least press for a couple more moves, and as Arian said, he's got it in his back pocket. If he needs, like, last resort, he can start giving some checks and force a draw. There's no need to rush.
So it's not dangerous for him. It's not.
It's not dangerous because he can always check with a knight and go back if he feels the danger. That being said, Magnus has always been the player that if there is any single chance to play on and play for a win, he goes for it.
Exactly, that's
so he
always
really
been his
doesn't
winning.
want to take the draw. He has such a fighting spirit.
Yeah.
Even if there's just a 5% chance the opponent might go wrong, you might as well play right. And Magnus, he's done that against me countless times.
So would it actually be a little worrying if Magnus, doesn't push on a little bit more?
It would show that maybe his confidence isn't as high as it usually is. Against mere mortals, against kind of run-of-the-mill GMs, maybe not against Nepomniachtchi. Against everyone else, I think he would play on instantly. He wouldn't even doubt himself. He would take some risks.
Yeah, he has. I do think that he has to try something against Nepomniachtchi. He has to put him a little bit on edge. That's been his strategy so far. Make Nepomniachtchi think, put him under pressure, and he knows that Nepomniachtchi has actually prepared this opening. And if he were just to agree a draw just like that, it would be a moral victory for him. And bearing in mind that Nepomniachtchi has the white pieces tomorrow, and it will be Nepomniachtchi's turn to put Magnus under the microscope, I do think that Magnus has to try here. I like this idea of pushing forward with the pawn. I think it seems like it's the only shot left, because otherwise you're just wasting time, right? This is a race.
It might lead to some long variations like the one we showed, but then again, it would force Nepomniachtchi to burn some energy calculating these force variations as well. And if there's no risk involved, then why not?
Maybe let's look at that variation again with pawn to d6.
Yeah, so the pawn...
so that's the way to play on.
Yeah, if Magnus does want to win.
He actually gave a check.
Yeah, he's dropped back with his knight. Maybe he will repeat the position once and then play on. He does give check. The black king is going to march forward, and this will be the moment of truth.
Okay.
He goes and repeats the position.
You always repeat the position once.
That's the Russian strategy.
You play with your opponent's feelings. You say draw. No draw for you today.
I wouldn't even hesitate. I would have repeated once and then...
You always do that because you usually get to time trouble. You want to get closer to move forward.
Exactly.
But anyway, it's a good strategy to just show I'm the boss. I'm the one who decides if I want to try.
So this doesn't necessarily mean anything?
Not yet. No, it will depend on the next move or two. I like to repeat and then make eye contact with my opponent as I play for a win, as I refuse the draw.
Nice.
Mind games. I've learned a lot from sitting next to David. How much is it's also about playing the person.
Eye contact. Oh, I would be so scared if...
Evil eyes, that's the key.
All right, well, when Nepomniachtchi comes back now, there is well, he is coming back right now. There's no doubt what he's going to play. Is it either way the king, one square forwards?
Definitely.
Okay.
He won't even hesitate here.
I would fall off my chair if he played something else.
Okay.
There
You're still on your chair, Jovanka.
Yep.
So now the question arises.
Okay, he plays for a win. No draw
Magnus
yet.
Carlsen plays for a win. He continues the game. All right. What does this mean? What are we looking at right now?
It means that the Norwegian reigning world champion, he's ambitious.
Cool.
He's caged that black king. So sometimes, maybe later down the line, that black king might be caught in what we call a mating net. The black king won't be able to escape. It also cuts out some lines where we saw the black king running out into the open. That being said, it does take a move out from the race to secure the position of that white knight. So now black can push his pawn forward, and Magnus has to be slightly careful of this black pawn running.
Oh, we have to look.
Do we
what
like it?
happens.
Do we?
What happens if that pawn runs?
Actually, Jovanka's variation becomes much more relevant now after white played a pawn to g5. Let's say if it was white to move now, then rook to c1 would be so deadly.
Yeah.
Because the knight on f6 is secured. And then if you get the rook to c7, you take that pawn f7, it's going to be mate.
Yeah, for example, black's one square away from making a queen, but it's too late.
It's all about that passed pawn. That's going to stop white from activating his rook.
Yeah, and that's why probably black just has to push, right? So after white has pushed this pawn forward, kind of sealing the black king within its cage, if black doesn't push, it's going to end up in checkmate. So black's pawn, I mean, this is automatic almost for Nepomniachtchi.
But the question is if Magnus, let's say if Jan pushes his pawn now to h3, Magnus can still repeat the position. But do you guys think he has another idea?
Hard to say.
Okay, I see something pretty cool actually. Let's say if white plays rook c1 after h3, and then
black pushes,
then take on f7.
Wow.
Okay, this looks like very cool. Sacrificing the rook, and if black takes, rook to c7.
And then the knight throws.
And it looks like checkmate, but the black knight can go to d7, sacrificing itself, and then white takes the rook, black plays king to f8, and then actually it ends in a draw.
This is a lovely pattern, actually.
It will be more cool way to draw. Knight takes h7.
It's a bit of a windmill, right? It just goes round and round.
Has to take a perpetual because otherwise black will queen. And you can show David if the black king goes to h8.
Black king can't
then
hide.
the Arabic mates go.
Just like Jovanka, you know your mates.
Yeah.
Top players do, right? You know those names.
I actually didn't know, but I just heard it on the show, so it was Arabic name. You learn something new every day, I guess. Nice to be here.
Yeah. I didn't know there were any other checkmates apart from just the word checkmate until I met Jovanka. So in the current position, we're expecting Nepomniachtchi to push this pawn forward because that's his main source of counterplay. You can't be too slow, you can't wait. Potentially, you could push your pawn forward here and just ask white a question of what to do with this pawn, which does support the white knight. But I guess white will just back up his pawn here, protect, and
you
it won't
could also
change
give a
too
check,
much.
right?
You could also, maybe give a check with the white knight now, and then if the black king drops back, maybe you could consider taking this pawn. Okay, interesting. And that would have changed the position slightly. So, yeah, I'm trying to look for options for Nepomniachtchi after black pushes forward, or instead of black pushing forward, but I'm pretty sure we'll see this happen on the board shortly. And there we go.
He played it.
After 3 minutes, does push his pawn.
Now the big question comes. If Magnus is going to go for a draw. Well, we haven't seen anything better. But
I mean, what could Magnus have up his sleeve in this particular position? I mean, is it to trade rooks and just kind of make a beeline?
Trade rooks? How?
Move
by
the
pushing
drop.
forward?
Rook e8, you mean? Or?
Yeah, there could be that one as well. Also dropping the rook back, but I like this one. Let's try this
dropping
one.
the rook back and hoping that after a rook trade that
run with the knight. Oh, yeah, run with the knight or go head back.
Towards this pawn?
Head back, or maybe just initiate another race. Because after all, the knight is in a cage.
This black knight is trapped. This black king is also trapped. But then again, white's rook is stuck in the corner. It's a mere bystander, a mere passenger. This is why we talk about rooks being behind passed pawns. This rook supports the black pawn, and white's rook it can never move, because if it does, black will make a new queen. So yeah, this is a really weird scenario actually, with black's knight and king trapped, but then white's rook also paralyzed.
If you would be in time to bring the king over to...
It's a good question.
Yeah, but I mean, it takes too much time. I guess in the meantime, maybe black can...
What is black doing though?
Maybe black can...
H6 first,
get the knight out by...
H4 and then take...
Trading and then bring the knight out this way, but... Even if the knights come off, it's not clear. I think black isn't risking too much, to be honest, but...
yeah, it doesn't seem like... Because the pawn on A2 is also so strong.
Yeah. I mean, with a rook like this one stuck in the corner, not being able to do anything, I don't think white can ever try to win this game. So I would be very surprised if Magnus tried to trade rooks.
What about the other way?
The other way, yeah. So
moving the rook up the board. And I just wanted to point out another mate. It's called the hook mate.
The hook mate.
Okay, so so let's say
teach us, Jovanka.
It is, yeah. So say black doesn't swap off rooks, just moves the rook off the board. Yeah. And then I would just make a random move for white, and then move the black knight out of the way. I just wanted to highlight this pattern. Because as soon as you're aware of the patterns, then you can really spot the checkmating ideas, and then the rook can move to the g8 square, and this would be the hook mate, because it's caught in a hook.
Okay. You know your mates.
Just the names.
Jovanka wrote a book, right? The Mating Game, so she knows all the notes.
Experts.
Okay, so this is the current position, and Magnus just thinking whether he can continue taking risk, continue pushing for the win.
I really like that rook c1, rook c1 move. If you want to make a draw, just make it in a fun way.
In a beautiful way.
Just one other variation, if black plays a2 here after rook c1, rook takes f7. So we saw that king takes f7 is a draw. If black plays king h8 instead, you can maybe just play king g2.
Ah, very nice. And then if black does make a new queen, we take. Still not clear, but...
yeah, king g7, and then maybe rook b8.
Yeah, and white has 2 pawns and a knight for 1 rook, and actually here the knight's probably just...
a monster.
Just a beast, yeah. White's going to deliver some nasty checks. White can never lose this. White might even win, because these pawns are just powerful. This guy dropping off as well. So, okay, Magnus got some ideas in mind. I'm hoping as well, maybe for Arian's pretty pattern there, or going for the draw, but... if Magnus can't find a way to press and kind of put some pressure on without taking risks, then he'll just give another knight check and repeat.
Well, he is in deep thought now, Magnus Carlsen. It's going to be very interesting to see what his next move is while he's thinking. Let's take a look at your selfies. So we're just setting up the position here, Simon. This was Magnus's last, Jan Nepomniachtchi's last move. What do you think about the situation here now?
Well, I think Magnus is trying everything he can. but he realises at some point he's going to have to take the draw. There's only so much you can do. Obviously, he's really resilient to take that draw. He's got the white pieces. He had this game plan, I'm sure, today. Try everything, make it a long game, but Black's basically played a perfect game of chess. I found it quite interesting, actually. I said in a tweet that no one really expected this opening from Jan, but there was Lawrence Trent, who is, I think, visiting the studio at some point in the future. And he said that he had all the way up to move 23, rook d3 in his notes. So some people have seen this before, obviously done their homework, but we didn't expect it in the studio. But I don't really see now how Magnus can keep the game going. This pawn is so strong. It's 2 squares away from coming down, and with the rook combining with it, Magnus is going to have to, I feel, take the draw either now by moving the knight backwards and forwards. This is one possibility, or by trying this. I like the flashy way of doing it. It'd be nice to see a bit of glamour on the board with some rook coming in. But of course, I don't know if I'd be brave enough to play this move in a game, because even though you're pretty confident it's a draw, if you've miscalculated and you end up losing this, you would just really not have a great birthday, would you? So, so I think move the knight backwards and forwards here is very likely to occur, and just take the draw. He's tried everything he can. Sometimes you just got to, well, that's it, you know. Go and enjoy your birthday dinner or something instead.
And I have to say, it's interesting coming to the actual chessboard. I'm standing now where Jan Nepomniachtchi is sitting, and I can feel that just my black king, it's very safe. Do you think Jan is feeling very confident and safe where he's sitting right now?
I think he'll be very confident. He's managed to calculate everything incredibly well. I think you can see that in his body language. It's very hard to tell with Jan. He's walking around. I mean, often the king stuck in that position, it could be in a lot of danger, but because he's got this counterplay, this pawn is just so strong. It's such a strong pawn, and his whole idea of pushing it earlier on was just a very good idea.
So what do you feel? I know you're a big fan of over-the-board chess, Simon. How do you feel about game 4 now? Again, the players deep in opening preparations, you know, way into move 20s.
In some ways, I think it's to be expected. I mean, these two have got, as you were discussing, the best preparation. They're using top computers, they're using top teams, they've got access to special computers, they've got massive memory banks, they've got massive, you know, their seconds of memories. You're going to expect in this match the margins to be so small. I personally find that more exciting, because it's not a one-way competition. It's the smallest of things will make that difference to who the world champion is going to be. And I've always thought this world championships was going to be a very, very close affair. I think I was going to go 55% in Magnus's favour before the match, and it does look so far like it probably is going to be a very close affair. Certainly is so far.
And it could be close to another draw in game 4 in this game. You did mention this move. Maybe that's what we're hoping for, a little bit flashy.
Yeah, a bit flashy is good. So, yeah.
What other options, if we look at this physical board, what other options are we looking at for Magnus now?
I think the simplest is just to move the knight, give the check. So you move the knight there, you attack the king. The black king really has to move. You can't give up your rook for it. And wherever it goes, we just move the knight back, and we just repeat the position 3 times. And I think someone mentioned, actually, we had Max Uva. There we go. We don't do that in England. We don't make like, I don't know, do we? I can't do it anyway. Max
It's the Norwegian word for beer, öl.
I should know that.
You should, yes,
exactly. I should know that. So definitely. But I think he was one of the people who said about this threefold repetition. He was very involved with the mathematical side of that. But I expect that will occur. I don't know if David, anyone else can, you know, Jovanka, Tarry, if you can find another option. I don't know, but I just don't see how Magnus can play on here. I just think it's come to a point where you just got to shake hands. So, yeah.
And if it is a quite quick draw, then we can head down to good night, celebrate your birthday, and have a few öls, Simon.
I love it. Yeah. Hurry up, guys. Come on. move. So, yeah.
What are we seeing on the board, David? Are there any other possibilities for Magnus Carlsen?
So Magnus doesn't have to go for the draw immediately. This idea that Simon mentioned with the knight checks, it would still exist maybe on the next move. So he might defer and delay that decision another move or two. But the longer he delays it, the more risk is involved. So I think Simon is probably correct. I would be slightly tempted to just play on, maybe just push the white king forward one square, maybe push a pawn, maybe block this black pawn with the rook. But either way, I think a draw is quite likely at this stage.
All right. He has been thinking now for 11 minutes. Magnus Carlsen, is he desperately, David, trying to find something else to do?
Yes. I think he's probably spotted Arian's nice, pretty idea there by bringing the white rook across. He knows that ends in a draw. He knows that he does have a backup plan. He does have some last resorts to go to if he needs, if kind of things start turning against him. He knows he always has these knight checks. Still no risk right now, but the longer he thinks, I think the more likely it is that he will come to the conclusion there's nothing else to do here. Despite the computer giving 0.2, this doesn't feel like anything at all. This feels like a pretty level position. Arian, any new ideas?
I was thinking about another funny idea. It was very similar to the other one. King to g2, as you said.
This is good. New ideas are always fun to analyze.
And then let's say black pushes the pawn a2, and now go rook c1.
Okay, so actually
probably even cooler. So
this doesn't work, I think, because when
oh yeah, you can sacrifice with the queen on f6.
Yeah. So
yeah. Okay, I went too far there.
This is flashy.
Yeah, you can show that. I was thinking rook takes f7 here.
Check.
If the black king were to go to h8, you can take the queen. That would be good for white, because you get an endgame where you have 2 pawns and knight for the rook. And later you can play rook to b8.
Yeah.
But this doesn't work because black can just take the rook.
Yeah. So in this position, after rook takes check,
king takes rook c7, and yeah, here I went too far because of the knight d7, rook takes d7, king f8,
and it looks
knight
like
takes h7. You cannot give a check again on f6 because black can just take with the queen.
Yeah, suddenly black has this new queen on the board, which is a nice tricky piece, and at the very end,
white does a good job.
Yeah, she does a great defensive job actually protecting her king from the far corner, and then at the very end, black would emerge with 2 extra rooks. So, yeah, so this idea of bringing the rook across and kind of sacrificing and opening up the black king, it only works now. It wouldn't work on the next move. I was actually thinking if you move forward with the king after black pushes a pawn, you could at least maybe retreat your rook to double up on this pawn, forcing black to put both of his rooks behind to defend. I'm not sure what this actually gains. But
actually, Jovanka just show me that variation.
Okay.
We were just discussing that.
Yeah, we didn't quite see any form of progress for white.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. You get this position, but it's very hard to do anything with d pawn.
Like every single time you try to push the pawn in the middle of the board, the knight is released.
Yeah, and if you push, the black knight jumps out.
Yeah.
With some nasty knight check ideas. It's weird seeing this situation where white's rooks are tied down against this pawn, but also black's rooks are also tied down against this pawn. I was wondering whether you could kind of inch forward, like push your pawn 1 square, and next move bring your king forward, then maybe bring it forward another square, then push your pawn, and like,
caterpillar approach.
Creepy crawly. Yeah, but even
a little bit like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Up the wall.
Exactly, inch by inch. Yeah. But the problem is maybe black will just push a pawn, and after a trade, maybe he can actually try and make some progress. And
that's a strong move, knight h7, just trading off the annoying knight on f6.
Yeah, and once that happens, I think white is the only one who is in danger here. Probably still a draw, but due to the strength of this powerful pawn tying down a whole white rook, black will never, ever lose this one. So not much to gain from that variation if Magnus wants to play on moving his king forward. I was also slightly wondering whether maybe, okay, if we do move the king forward, whether you could push the rook up now. But again, if black just slides across and keeps the tension with the rooks, a set of trades would not help white, because if you compare the remaining rooks, white's is passive, black's is active. Black can use all of these squares, white's rook is completely stuck. It's all to do with this pawn, and yeah, right now, Magnus struggling to come up with ideas.
Yeah, I think he's either going to go for knight e8 check or rook c1. It's one of those.
Knight check or bring the rook across.
Moves. But that's going to lead to a draw. It's very hard for him to find anything because the pawn on h3 is so strong.
Yeah. Simon mentioned it's all about this guy right now.
So it does look like this game is going to finish in a draw. And Nasos on Twitter says that machines and memorized machine opening moves take away the real beauty of the game. That had Fischer on mind when he left official chess. And it's certainly an accusation that we've kind of seen from the media, and we've seen from a lot of people saying that, hey, this is just killing chess. Do you agree with this, or do you think that, you know, the fact that the player with the black pieces will have a moral advantage, a psychological advantage, actually adds a new layer to the game?
Yeah, I think chess is so vast, it's so rich that there's still plenty to explore. We don't know, I mean, we're just touching the surface still now. And okay, at this very kind of heightened level, at this extreme level where they're all so good and they don't really want to take risks and it's a one-on-one battle, then maybe having computers does take some of the intrigue out. But, I mean, we've been playing tournaments. I mean, the Grand Swiss recently, so many decisive games, so many new ideas all the time. You can still fight. Computers have taught us that anything's possible. All these openings, which in the past were kind of deemed dubious, now they're viable. And I think if we embrace the computers, then there's still a lot to learn and a lot to enjoy.
Yeah.
I think we can't get too cynical yet and say chess is dead. We've been saying that for 30 years, but it's not true yet.
How many possible moves again after 2 moves on the chessboard? Or
After Black's first move, there's 400 different positions, and I think that's already in the millions after Black's second move.
Yeah.
So, wow. Or maybe several millions.
Exactly. It's extremely deep, this game. So it's probably not going to be solved, even by computers.
Not going to be that.
No,
exactly.
I don't think so. I mean...
Even if computers solve it, we can't memorize it all, right?
Exactly. I know that certain openings have been refuted, but the actual way to refute this particular these openings are so complex and such a treacherous tightrope that's impossible for humans to kind of gauge how to do it. So I think I agree. You know, this. If you embrace computers, like David says, it adds a new layer to the game.
Yeah.
And for me, I find it very fascinating. How are these players going to outwit each other when they have supercomputers at their disposal? And we saw Magnus employ a really rare line. It wasn't the top choice, you know, it wasn't necessarily the main line. But Nepomniachtchi got into his head and predicted this. I mean... That's incredibly well done. That is going to psych Magnus's team out. So I can't wait to see how they're going to react tomorrow.
That's it. We can blame computer preparation, but in the end, it's a human battle, one-on-one. And Nepomniachtchi, he just understood that maybe Magnus would want this kind of rare line. Maybe this is Magnus's type of position, so he predicted it. And it's still that human battle once you scratch beneath the surface.
What team do you think has been the winner so far, Arian?
It's hard to say because Magnus with the black pieces, he kind of, I would say, won the opening battles. I mean, he was the one that surprised Jan. Jan was the first one that started to think. But today, we just have to say Jan was so impressive with his opening. Like, all the 26 moves, he just knew and remembered.
Incredible.
So deep. But so today he's the winner in the opening, but I wouldn't say like in the other games. It's been pretty even so far. That being said, today's game was a bit dry, but those 3 other games were quite fighting. So yeah, I mean, in 14 games, sometimes we have games like this where not much happens and it just ends in a draw. But so many rounds to go, and I'm sure we will see blood.
Yeah, I was thinking when your scoring system, you know, like boxing, you know, how they rate on punches and the amount of hits. Maybe they should have a new scoring system when it comes to tie breaks. You know, you have a panel of judges. Who won the opening? Magnus did.
Can't make it subjective, though.
Ooh, you could
That's why I don't watch gymnastics or anything. It's all subjective. It's all someone's opinion.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah, that's why I always liked math in school. We've been talking about math with Max Öve today because there was no teacher could ever give me the wrong grade. I felt like it's you know, we know what the answer is, so I will always get the correct grade. How are you in math, Arjen? So I asked Simon the question: are all chess players great at math? David and Jovanka have previously told me they weren't that big of math fans in school. How about you?
Actually, me neither. It's interesting that most people outside from chess, they think that chess players are like geniuses when it comes to math. They are so good at it. But I just had like normal grades. I feel like if you want to become very good at math, you have to spend a lot of time on it, and I didn't really do that.
Like chess, so maybe.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say like you're like good at math because you're a good chess player. You have to spend time on it like everything else.
Yeah. So there's always the question of sort of what approach you have to the game. If it is the scientific, which I guess would be the great mathematicians like Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, or the artistic maybe, or more the competitive or the sports aspect. Which one do you prefer?
The competitive or the...
So what do you have? You have scientific, artistic, and sports, right? If you consider chess to be a sport, science, or arts.
Oh, that's a good question. I would say sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The competitiveness, yeah.
I feel it's really competitive.
Yeah.
You know, it reminds me of a conversation I had with renowned trainer Mark Dvoretsky, and he was talking about the British school of chess. And he said, you know, the British school of chess used to be like mathematicians, scientists, all working everything out perfectly. And then the street fighters came along. And these are the sporting aspects. You know, they didn't care whether they played ugly chess. It was just all about winning and posing the most practical problems.
Yeah.
So
risk-taking, hustling, tricking, that's what we do now in England.
Isn't that what Magnus is kind of known for too, though?
Yeah, I think
the sports approach?
Yeah, he's universal, though. Magnus, I mean, he's artistic when he can be. He likes looking for these pretty moves, these nice patterns. Definitely the sporty approach. I mean, for him, it's all about the result. That shows a sportsman, but he can be scientific when he needs to be as well. And that's what we've seen in his World Championship matches. I think he's maybe less comfortable when it becomes purely a science, when it's all about crunching the numbers, where it's all about kind of working out the details of all these openings. He prefers when it's just a hand-to-hand fight, but yeah, he's a universal player, maybe more than any other.
So, yeah, how about Nepomniachtchi then?
That's a tough one.
He seems like a very competitive guy, right? He's very emotional. It feels like he would fall under the sports category.
I would definitely say he falls under the sport category because Jan, if you see his games, he actually makes a lot of objective mistakes, but he plays with speed and he just like, real sportsman, does everything for the result, and it pays off. Magnus plays much more accurate chess than Jan, but Jan, he's like plays some psychological games, plays very fast, and just kind of provokes his opponent to make mistakes. And sometimes he gets very bad positions, but he's fighting so well and he's setting up the dirty tricks that it works for him.
And that's what we're hoping to get out of this match.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, you played Jan just recently in Norway chess a couple of months ago, and I know you beat him there in the classical format, right? Do you think it was because maybe he was reverting to those tricks you mentioned and got a bit out of hand for him? Or?
Yeah, I think he probably underestimated me a bit. He was white against me, and he was probably thinking that it's going to be an easy game, but...
You showed him who's boss.
Yeah, we can say that. I showed him who was the boss. No, he played very aggressive from the start and went all out. But at some point, he played some inaccurate moves, and I got the initiative. And then he was actually looking very confidently, and he was walking, playing fast. But I knew Jan, and I know that he usually does that even when he has a bad position. So I was just like trying to not get affected by his psychological tricks.
Yeah.
And I managed to keep calm and won a great game.
Do you actually nowadays also, or maybe always been like that, you have to actually prepare for the type of person you're facing as well, knowing, you know, what they will do if they feel they have a bad position or a good position, so that you're not psyched out?
Yeah, it's kind of. I mean, in general, you should just try to focus on the board and not get affected by how your opponent behaves. But the top players, you kind of seen them so many times, you know how they usually behave. So I was like kind of, I've seen Jan do it so many times, so I was aware of it, and that maybe helped a bit to not get psyched out.
Yeah.
Do you feel he's evolved a bit slightly, Jan, over the last year? I mean, obviously he still occasionally has those types of games where he maybe plays too much on the psychological factor and forgets the chess. But to me, in the candidates tournament, the second half and the match so far here, it feels like he's added this kind of solid layer where he's become more grounded, he can control his emotions. And
he became much more stable in the last 5 years, where he made this jump from 2,700 to almost 2,800. He has much less of those off days where he gets like affected by what happened the game before. So that has definitely been very important for him.
So Magnus can't rely on Jan having an off day anymore, right? I mean, in the past he would have expected Jan to have 1 or 2 bad days, but now the way he's playing,
if he loses one game, that will be the big question, I think. Jan has always been pretty bad at dealing with losses, so it's going to be the critical test if he loses a game.
Right.
And Magnus great at bouncing back, but Jan the opposite, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Magnus in fact said you can hit him in the face just in chess terms, that is.
Okay, so not literally.
Not chess boxing.
No, and he will just pick himself up and continue. And he considered that Jan's biggest weakness was the fact that he couldn't. He would just tend to collapse. But having said that, you know, we are going to see that in action in this. Once the players start exchanging punches.
Well, I do love that story from 2016 told by Espen Agdestein when Magnus lost the game to Sergei Karyakin and the whole team went to a restaurant and they figured out, let's order some drinks. And I guess it got quite fun that evening. And Magnus did bounce back 2 games later with a win. So sometimes, and Magnus has actually told stories like that before, right? After a loss, I think during a Blitz and Rapid
2012,
he went to his room and got some vodka.
I think he just drank everything from the minibar, came back, won 8 games in a row.
Wow.
That was in World Blitz Championship in 2012.
Wow. I mean, have you guys tried it? Is it something that would work?
No, it doesn't work for the majority of people. The majority of people, I have to say, no, it doesn't work.
Not recommended, I guess.
No, it's certainly not recommended.
I would recommend the routine, not the alcohol, of course, but breaking your routine is normally a good thing. If you're in bad form, switch things up. Just do something different, whether it's going for a run, whether it's going to a new place for dinner, having new food, or meeting up with new friends, or watching a movie or something. But don't stay in your routine. If you're in bad form, if you continue in your routine, you'll stay in bad form. Likewise, if you're in good form, never break your routine. Don't do anything differently, because that will trick your mind into thinking that, you know, the tension is over. And, you need, if you're playing well, maintain the routine. If you're playing badly, do anything to change it up.
Okay.
I think that's the tip, anyway.
All right.
And no alcohol. That's not what we recommend here on the show. We're very professional here.
We don't recommend that at all.
But do you think for Magnus, because all eyes are on him, pressure is extremely big, like in the World Rapid and Blitz, you know, people are expecting him to win, and it's a lot of pressure maybe when he starts losing a few games. So, you know, again, not, you know, advising for the alcohol, but that is stuff he needs to do to just forget about the pressure and forget about everything?
Well, with Magnus, he's so used to this pressure. He's been like #1 for 10 years and played these matches, so he's just, I think he deals with it pretty well. But just being able for him to play some sports on the rest day and get his mind somewhere else, I think is a very nice way to relax.
He does have a lot of experience now, right? With the World Championship matches, how to spend the rest days, even what to do if it goes badly for a game or two.
Yeah, he'll have plans in place as well. Like, obviously, he wants to play football on the rest days and chill, but if that's not working for him, then I'm sure he has other ideas of what he can do, how to spend the time. And yeah, it's all about experience for him. Sometimes, especially in the World Championship matches, I think more than any other time, he does talk about the pressure. He does mention that maybe it stops him from taking risks. That's why we've seen 17 games in World Championship matches drawn in a row, just because I think it's the risk. That's the one place, I mean, it doesn't force him to make mistakes, it's just, it stops him from taking risk. And at some point in this match, he will maybe take a risk, but 4 games in, it does feel like he's still within himself. He's still within his shell.
But I have to say, one thing that we're kind of forgetting a little bit is that he is playing some exceedingly well-prepared opponents. You know, Karyakin, Caruana, and now Nepomniachtchi. They've been preparing for him for months. And, you know, I do know that Caruana was also using neural network-based engines, but they were very much in their infancy. And now Jan Nepomniachtchi has amassed a whole team. Who knows how much money has been spent in collecting the resources so that he can prepare against Magnus. There's rumours that Sergei Karyakin used $1 million in his preparations against Magnus, you know. And I mean, I don't know whether that's true or not, but I'm assuming that it's a significant amount of money that Jan Nepomniachtchi, he has supercomputers at his disposal, and he has a team. You know, I'm for sure there's going to be a performance psychologist in there just trying to get into the minds of Magnus and just try to predict exactly what he's playing. So I think that there's going to be draws. I do think that with the style of both these players, that I do think there will be at some point, there has to be at some point a decisive game.
It really feels like it, yeah. All right, well, Magnus thinking for 30 minutes. And I understood on you guys, there's not many options for him.
No, actually, Stockfish there, we do see 3 suggestions from the computer, and all of them are roughly equal. The top suggestion by Stockfish is just giving a knight check, but the knight came from there a few turns ago. I think the plus 0.2 is just the computer being slightly too optimistic. It just means it's completely level. And the other moves, just pushing a pawn for white, pushing Harry the h-pawn, or just pushing the king forward, those would likely lead to draws anyway over the next few turns. So
But your flashy move is not on the Stockfish top 3 radar.
not yet.
That's surprising that Rook C1 is not there. But
it might be the 4th choice. I mean, probably Rook C1 is 0.0 as well, so King G2 and they're all the same.
Is there anything that Magnus could be thinking about? Like, I've seen some suggestions on Twitter, for instance, maybe swapping off a set of rooks. I mean, we touched upon this idea.
In which direction? Up or down?
Both.
Which rook do you
Both,
swap?
actually.
Okay.
So let's try the one that's where the rook moves down.
Okay. And here, black is pretty much obliged to trade. If you move away, then suddenly the black pawn drops, and once that pawn drops, all of black's play disappears. So, okay, trade. And now I want to lock in the white rook and keep you stuck on this square. I'm not sure I need to actually as black, but it looks pretty, just forcing this rook into this cage. And I guess the white king has to march forward at some point. Maybe you want to bring it across to try and eventually round up this pawn.
Yep.
This would allow black to challenge this stronghold. And if we do see a pawn trade on this side of the board, the question is whether black trades knights or not. I'm not 100% sure. If the knights do disappear from the board, it does take white a long time to start running with the king. And in the meantime, black at some point will just be able to just put the rook on a square where it will eye up some pawns. Maybe that's the wrong square for the white king, but either way, black's rook will just sit on a very active square. And I don't know, it feels to me as if white's risking stuff.
The king is such a slow piece, you know. I mean, if you could magically transport the king, you know, all the way over to the c6 square, it would be awesome.
Yeah.
But it's just going to take a long time to get there, right?
It'll take an age to get there.
Yeah, the rook is so stuck on a1.
Yeah.
It takes so many moves to get it to a normal square.
Too risky.
Yeah, it feels like white is the one that's risking, and black can maybe bring his king to d6 or play f6.
Yep. Black can bring the king over or push a pawn and create a pass pawn of his own. As soon as the white king goes over, then pawns will start to drop.
And another suggestion that I've seen on Twitter is actually, okay, so what happens if the white rook just decides to go pawn hunting?
Okay,
this is quite an interesting question, but you do have to deal with this huge pawn that's sitting on the a3 square. That means this would terrify the living daylights out of me.
Yeah, and I think, unfortunately here you might be one move too slow as white, right? Because the pawn could step forward, and after rook takes pawn, white is a pawn up, and white kind of threatens to go across, actually, to block this black rook's connection with its pawn, but black now could just step across, and this is coming next move, no matter what, and this will eliminate the white rook and force the black pawn through to glory, so I think this will cost white a rook. For example, if the king steps forward, the black rook will come down, and this guy trapped. If you take, of course, a new queen appears on the board. So nice idea there, maybe just one move too slow, because black's pawn is too strong. And if that's too slow, okay, let's maybe revisit this king move.
I think Magnus is basically like considering every move in the position. He's just really want to keep the game going. So yeah, so you said king g2?
Yeah, if the pawn steps forward, I want to maybe try this idea again, pushing forward with the rook.
Oh, rook yes. What if black plays like rook a7?
Okay, rook a7. Can't go for it now, can I?
Oh, here it comes.
Okay, it's a knight check. Yeah, this one doesn't look like it's leading anywhere either, so knight check. Are we about to see a draw? If the black king goes back, Magnus leaving the board there, he will probably just drop the knight back with a check, and we might well see a repetition now. Position repeating itself.
Well, let's hope Nepomniachtchi hasn't fallen asleep in his position, that he will be back quite soon.
But why would Magnus leave the board if he's thinking to repeat?
I mean, maybe he knows Jan will take a couple of minutes to come back anyway. Maybe maybe he spent 30 minutes needing the bathroom and he needed to.
I was going to suggest that, you know, he spent half an hour sitting down, and often, you know, when you've spent so long just calculating, you need the bathroom, you need just to kind of clear your head.
Yeah, maybe he goes to the bathroom and some new idea comes to his mind.
Has that happened to you guys?
I was going to ask that.
maybe once in a while it can happen, but usually not. Like especially when you've been sitting at the board for 30 minutes, you've seen all the ideas.
Yeah.
Have you
It's happened to me twice. Like once being in the bathroom and I was just sitting there thinking, oh, I'm dead lost, I'm about to resign. And then I thought, okay, there must be one last trick. And then suddenly I thought, oh, wait, maybe I'm winning.
It's such a good feeling.
I know. And
yeah, then you're kind of like celebrating in the bathroom, you know? You're like, yes.
I feel like such a creep in the...
You're like screaming in the bathroom from happiness.
When I came back, I looked at the board, I was like, oh, I got the position wrong in my head anyway.
Oh, that's a cold shower.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't losing at least, so it was...
Well, one thing that did happen to me while I was... my opponent and myself had just made 40 moves. And I thought, OK, I've survived. And then I realised I'm winning. And then
we have the response from Jan.
Forced move.
He has to move his king back.
So the question now for Magnus, will he move his knight back again?
Yeah.
There he goes.
Here he comes. Jovanka.
If Magnus... is it immediately a draw if Magnus now goes back, or do they need to do it?
Yet.
Because they moved some pawns in between here, right?
Yes. And, OK, body language. He's coming back with the knight. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to force the draw.
They're leaving again.
Runs away again. But this will be the moment. If he brings his knight forward, this position's arisen twice now. If he brings his knight forward, that will be the second time that position has happened on the board as well. But if he brings his knight forward, I think we'll see the draw.
Why did he leave the board again?
And that's what I'm laughing at, that, you know, Magnus comes in, makes a move, leaves. Jan makes a move, leaves.
Maybe he was halfway through some snacks back there in the restaurant.
All right, Magnus is coming back to the board. What will he do?
OK.
I have a feeling that he's going to play on.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Otherwise, why leave the board, right?
Yeah.
Maybe because he's trying to send a message to Jan about leaving the board.
I'm hoping he plays on as well, because my prediction previously was 42 moves. So I'm hoping that Magnus plays on at least until the time control.
Just from his body language, it feels like he's going to play on. But I could be wrong. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, you probably know his body language more than most, Ariane. And I'd be inclined to agree, although... OK, he's paused. So it's really hard to call here whether he's going to play on or not.
So do you think he's made his decision yet, or is he...
I think not yet. He's repeated once just to show he has the draw in hand still if he needs it. But maybe we'll see him indulge in another 10-minute think, at least for a few minutes. I don't think he's risking much if he just does move his king or moves a pawn, because he still has this drawing idea on the next turn. But, OK, moment of truth, Magnus. Stop teasing us.
Yeah.
If he plays on, I think he goes like king g2, maybe. Just improve his king position.
Yeah.
And then after a2, maybe then repeat, as you said.
Well, if he does decide to play on here, Magnus, I mean, he has spent now a lot of time. He is down to 30 minutes on his clock. He needs to reach move 40 to get another hour on the clock. Could that be an issue for him?
The clock time?
Yeah, because Nepomniachtchi has a lot of time, and maybe it's a little bit complicated going forwards then.
Yeah, I mean, if you do start taking some big risks, then it will become very concrete where you need to calculate and you want extra time on the clock. But right now, it's manageable. It's not too drastic. OK, I'm trying to think what's going on in his mind, because, OK, making some facial expression there. As well as the chess moves, he's probably just thinking, OK, with white, there is this kind of moral burden to play on, not to kind of bail out at the first chance.
I don't know. I have a feeling he's going to take the draw.
Okay.
I mean...
Should we put on a bet? Or?
There is one variation that we didn't really look at, which is an option. Pawn to h4.
OK, let's try. So this is potentially what Magnus is considering as well, or something he's looked at, pushing forward?
Yeah, push the pawn to h4.
And if
Let's say black pushes his pawn, that's logical. And then push the pawn to h5.
OK, so trying to really cage this black king.
Yeah, really trying to cage the black king. So let's say if black would play like rook to b3 now, trying to get the rook to b1 and make a queen, then you can play pawn to h6, king to h8. And here you have a good move, king to g2. And let's say black plays rook to b1 now. And here you can sacrifice your rook. You can take the pawn a2, black takes the rook, and then you can play rook to e8. And this is a beautiful position where we see... Actually, maybe black can sacrifice both of his rooks.
Yeah.
Good draw.
Oh, maybe. Wow. This is actually really cool, right?
That's very, very nice.
It's stalemate suddenly.
For example, Black's king is trapped actually, and Black's knight cannot move. So maybe Black can hope to give up both rooks. And suddenly, earlier we saw White being a rook up and almost winning, but now White being a rook down and almost winning. Now White's a rook up and not winning because
the trickster strikes again, Ariane.
yeah, Black's king is not getting mated; it's getting stalemated.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, the
Black has
question
no legal moves.
is if the White king can run away. But anyway, this variation looked a bit dangerous for Jan. So after h5, pawn to h5, if you go a few moves back, it looks logical if Black takes that pawn to get some air for the king. Take the pawn, White takes with the knight. And here it's very important to not go up with the king, because then there is this nice fork with knight f4 check, picking up the rook. So Black should go back with the king to g8. And here, still, if Magnus wants a draw, he can repeat the position.
Yeah. I was also thinking that maybe you can kind of kill the danger in its infancy by just simply pushing your pawn to h5.
Yeah, that's also...
This position.
Yeah.
It's Black.
Yeah, just kind of kill it. I don't want any checkmating ideas.
So now White can never take en passant because the knight drops. And you can only play en passant once, right? So it's like,
actually, I didn't know that.
Only on the first move that Black tries to bypass your pawn. For example, here, if Black moves 2 squares forward, you can take it now as if it moved once. But if you wait, for example, if you give a knight check first and the king moves, you cannot take it now. It's just not legal. So,
yeah.
So, very important trick there to remember. En passant, you can only capture immediately.
Okay.
And that would be a decent move as well, just blocking up White's pawn pushes.
I think the more time Magnus spends, the more likely is he to go for a draw. Because let's say if he spends 10 minutes more and has like 15 minutes left, then maybe he feels he doesn't have so much time.
Yeah, it's too risky to play on then, with no time to calculate, just in case you've missed something.
But I do quite like this idea of just pushing the pawn and seeing whether Nepomniachtchi is aware of this of the danger.
I'm just wondering if there's risk involved if you push this pawn after pawn steps forward. I mean, possibly this one, but you'd also have to calculate what's happening after this.
But then Jovanka's idea with knight e8 is maybe smart, and then take the pawn on h6.
But even then, okay, maybe there are some checkmates. I'm wondering who's quick enough, but I think it's the same idea, right?
Yeah, just getting the king to the cage.
Now it's not stalemate, actually.
Here, actually, this gets, this is a beautiful idea. Rook takes f, rook e8 is,
going for checkmate. Now it's no longer stalemate. Black can't give up the rooks because this pawn is free to move later on. And White would actually be winning here, checkmate. Yeah, so maybe he can get away with this, Magnus. He can get away with a few things, either pushing this pawn forward, maybe moving his king forward, but if he gets too low on the clock, we'll see a knight check and a repetition.
Are you puzzled that Magnus Carlsen is thinking for so much time? He's more than 40 minutes down on the clock from Jan Nepomniachtchi now.
It's uncharacteristic, right? This is the type of thing I do, but I never see the top players do. Kind of burn all the time.
It's inspired by you, David.
Oh, I'm not sure. I think corrupted by me, more likely.
Been hanging out too much with you. So.
Oh, no. He's learning all my bad habits, time travel, and indecisiveness.
But also winning games.
From time to time.
Yeah. But look at Magnus Carlsen here. He's just in deep thought. You would have thought that during that half-hour break that he took thinking, that he sort of would have made the plan going forward.
Yeah, he's unsure, because he sees that he can make another move to play on, but then again, what we talked about earlier, he has to make the perpetual, let's say, one move later, and then he doesn't see the sense to, let's say, play the king to g2 or pawn to h4, and then Black pushes the pawn, and then he has to give the check anyway.
Yeah. Do you think he's finished, calculated? He's just making decision?
Pretty much. I mean, as Arian mentioned, I mean, these top players are so good. So after 30 minutes thinking a couple of moves ago, he's probably seen everything there is to see. He won't be finding any new ideas necessarily.
I have an idea. Okay, so I have an idea, and did a quick run through with the computer. So the first move is Arian's move to advance the pawn. So, and then here I'm just thinking that maybe he might want to kill the game and just also play my suggestion, which was to push the pawn. Yeah, and then here, push the white pawn in the center 1 square.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so the big idea is that what if you do push the black pawn to the a2 square?
I should mention the pawn cannot be taken because there's a knight check. and this is a fork.
Yeah.
So this will cost black a rook. So you mentioned Jovanka pushing this guy forward.
Yeah, and then the white rook will now just drop down to the second row.
Okay, some pressure on this.
Yes, so the natural move is actually just to protect the pawn.
Swing across.
And then the white idea is basically that the white knight is loose, and the white knight can start harassing the pawn on b6.
Okay, so you can drop back maybe at some point and go for this guy.
So first of all, start with the pawn on pushing to d7.
Okay, one square away.
Yeah.
And if the knight, for example, comes out.
Now the knight is released.
Now the white knight is released and it can jump over.
Yes.
Start snacking on pawns.
There you go.
Interesting, and again, this tension between all of the rooks. The black rooks, they're defending this pawn, and then the white rooks attacking this pawn. It's not clear whose rooks are better, but if the white knight is better than the black knight, there may be some chances for Magnus. So if anything, we're expecting either a draw immediately or this pawn push.
Okay.
Okay. If we see a push of that pawn, Magnus might well have some tricks up his sleeve.
But not much time.
Not much time anymore. I mean, we had this position and Magnus had around an hour on the clock. So he spent 30 minutes on this exact position 2 moves ago. It repeated itself, and then he spent 10 minutes on this move. That's huge consumption.
You can see it on his body language. He is, it's itching. Something is itching.
Yeah, I think he's really unhappy to not be able to put any pressure with white. Just for Jan to get such an easy game is pretty frustrating.
Yeah. All right, clock still ticking. 10 minutes now on this move. Magnus Carlsen, will he go for the draw or will he keep pushing? That is the big question. Feels tense right now.
Yeah, I think World Championship matches are just especially tense. If this was an open tournament, Magnus would just make a decision. He would either make the draw immediately or he'd push and just kind of trust his instincts. But World Championship matches, it's not just the moves, it's not just the board, it's the psychology. And he wants to tell Jan that he's not scared. That he'll take risks or put pressure if he can.
And
suspense.
Yeah, I know, I can't wait. And I do have a question from Bobo on Twitter, who asks us, did Alpha Zero games change the way top chess games are played? Did players find any new pattern in those games?
Yeah, I think definitely. Magnus himself said that he probably felt his strongest at the beginning of 2019 after his match against Caruana. And there he was playing lots of ideas inspired by Alpha Zero and Lila Zero, giving up pawns, pushing especially his H pawns forward. Those patterns, I think, obviously they were known, but they started cropping up in every different opening due to the influence of Alpha Zero. And I know the players, they were fighting to get hold of Alpha Zero, to kind of play training games against it, to get hold of its kind of mechanism there. So.
Yeah. And Magnus was one of the first players who actually studied Alpha Zero's games. And 2019 was like Magnus' best year on the chessboard. He won 50 elo points. He was crushing every tournament. And he said one of the reasons was, as David pointed out, because of Alpha Zero, he got a lot of new ideas by studying those games, going with the H pawn in the openings. So technology plays a big role in chess.
Yeah. And I know you guys have told me that with Alpha Zero and artificial intelligence, it's more about taking space more than material. Can you already see that changing chess?
Definitely. And also Alpha Zero, Lila Zero, these AI engines, it's easier to understand for a human in a way. Like Stockfish, sometimes it just crunches the numbers. It's pure variations, and you look at the moves on their own, and they're impossible to understand. You need to look deeper. But somehow, when I've looked at kind of Lila Zero, and when I had the pleasure of playing against Alpha Zero, it just felt very human in a way. It's like the moves, you look at them and you're like, oh, actually that's super logical. And you can understand them easier. But
it's like the circle of life. So now we have AI even stronger than the computers, like Stockfish, and they're becoming more human. Genius humans.
And then they'll take over and conquer the world.
Exactly.
Skynet.
Exactly. This is when it's over. All right. Magnus now about to tick under 20 minutes on the clock. He still has to make 8 moves right to reach move 40, where he will gain another hour on the clock. But obviously, on Nepomniachtchi, he's going to keep the time that he has right now. The clock situation must be getting to Magnus right now.
I think he'll definitely have one eye on the clock, especially if he chooses to play on.
Should definitely not go under 10 minutes, I think. So it's like 8 moves before move 40.
And no increment as well, so it's a bit.
Yeah. It's getting a bit risky.
Is that if Magnus takes under, say, 10 minutes, can Jan Nepomniachtchi actually start imposing some problems just looking at the clocks?
The good thing is that he can always actually take the draw, even if he has like 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
Jan cannot really play on. We can actually show what happens if Jan decides to play on. So White gives a check with a knight to e8.
Yep.
Let's say he gets really low on time and Jan decides to play king to h8.
Okay.
So actually, he played the check.
I think we're about to see a draw, but if Jan does run away from the draw,
knight c7, I think, is a good move, and then threatening the rook and the pawn f7. So that would not be a good idea.
Once the rook moves, we just win a pawn for free. That's why the king has to stay on this square, guarding the pawn. And now White would just win a very important pawn, actually, and the game. So that's why we're expecting to see a draw. Magnus has given this check. The black king, as mentioned, has to protect this pawn.
That's 3 times, right?
If Magnus drops back now, that will be the 3rd time.
1 time more.
So 1 more time.
And you have to claim correctly as well.
Yes.
You have to stop the clock and write down the move, and then you have to call the arbiter over and you say, hey, I am going to make this move, and then we would have repeated the position 3 times. You can't just make the move.
If you make the move and then claim, technically your opponent doesn't have to make the draw. You can play on, but normally the players agree. It's 3 times.
And Jan Nepomniachtchi is back by the board. He is making his move.
Okay, so moment of truth. If Magnus retreats his knight, we're about to see a draw.
And
there we have it.
Yeah, so Nepomniachtchi, he has to move his king forward. That's strictly the only move. There we go. He stops the clock. As Jovanka mentioned, he doesn't make the move on the board. He stops it. He tells the arbiter it's about to be 3 times. And
there we have the handshake. Game 4 in Dubai between these two is another draw. They are still tied, Magnus Carlsen and Jan Nepomniachtchi. Magnus on his birthday with the white pieces. This was not what he was hoping for today.
Definitely not. Far from a success for the world champion. He walked his opening preparation and Nepomniachtchi never had any success.
Let's see if we can hear what they say.
Yeah, d6, knight d6.
d7, knight g5, rook e8, no problem.
Rook e8, rook f4.
Here just no, then rook j2.
You already took the pawn.
No, knight g5. I mean, immediately d6.
d6, knight d6.
Yeah, d7, knight g5.
Yeah.
Yeah, rook e8, even here, rook e4, d8 promotes. So,
yeah, takes and f6.
But then rook b6, rook d6, rook b6, and rook e6 at some point. It should be okay. Maybe I can go to 3-on-2. Maybe I should go to 3-on-2 at some point. But I also had an interesting move, like knight g6, and let's say d7, rook d8, or something, rook e8, and then h6. And somehow it's not so easy. I mean, maybe that's just unnecessary, so I should just try it away.
I mean, rook e8, you can also take on d7, huh?
Yeah, I mean, okay, a lot of moves, but I mean, maybe you can keep b5 pawn, I wasn't sure. So.
Yeah.
All right, they did discuss the game. Jan Nepomniachtchi, he seemed confident in that discussion, I have to say.
Yeah, he's been asserting his dominance, actually, in some of these post-game discussions. He's clearly seeing a lot of variations, and he's not afraid to let Magnus know that.
Yeah, Arian, knowing Magnus, do you think he's frustrated and not happy with this game right now?
Yeah, for sure, frustrated. I mean, he's the best player in the world, and with White not being able to pose any problems, doesn't feel great. Talking about Jan being confident, he's always been like that. He has a very high confidence and always believes in himself. Often he overestimates his position even, so he's always been a confident guy.
Yeah. Do you think, Jovanka, that Team Nepo is giving high fives right now, and now they're opening? With the black pieces, we're doing great.
Yeah, with the black pieces, they're doing great. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, definitely more so than Game 2, which was a real roller coaster of emotions here. Magnus stumbled into preparation, and Jan had a very comfortable draw. This is what you want in match play. You want to hold the game with the black pieces, and you want to strike with white.
Yeah. So how did we do on the predictions today then, David? None of us did very well.
Nope. Let's not talk about it, Kaja, because I think we all guessed the wrong opening. I guessed the wrong result, at least. And
you got quite close with the moves.
I get a few points for the moves. Not too many, unfortunately.
I guessed it was going to be a draw. That was about it.
Okay, so Jovanka's going to gain some points here on our prediction challenge. And you guys, of course, also can play the prediction challenge on magnusnepo.com. Game 5 will be tomorrow, and Jan Nepomniachtchi will have the black pieces. I mean, we are waiting for interviews with the players, but already looking forward to that. And Jan, probably feeling a little confident after today. What do you think about him with the white pieces tomorrow?
Definitely gonna get even more confident after today, making such an easy draw with black. So tomorrow, I'm curious what he's gonna try against Magnus Marshall.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely gonna try to play for a win with whites. All about the opening preparation. I think if he gets a good position from the opening, he can put some. He hopes to put some pressure.
Yeah, we're gonna head to Dubai and the interview with Magnus Carlsen.
Magnus, Jan has barely ever played the Petrov. Did that take you by surprise?
He played it in Candidate, so it was one of the main openings to prepare for.
All right, but then in this line, at which moment did you think Jan would be caught off guard, or any moment that would pose a big challenge to him?
Yeah, this BC3 instead of Queen B7 is a little bit rare. Yeah, this whole plan is it's pretty dangerous for him. I mean, computer shows, you know, zeros in many lines, but practically it's not so easy. Yeah, I thought what he went for looked a bit dangerous, but I couldn't see it, so I assume it was just a draw.
All right, and in the end, you were really trying to keep the game going, but it looked like you were, even though the result was a peaceful one, it looked like you were frustrated with it. What was your mindset in the end?
No, I wouldn't say I was frustrated. I was just trying. So, and I didn't find it, and it seemed pretty normal.
All right, thank you.
All right, Magnus Carlsen saying he's not frustrated, but there was no smile on his face, even if it is his birthday, David. What is he talking about in the interview with Tanya here?
He's talking about a few things. He was talking about the opening, that there were some rare moves involved there, that he was caught a bit by surprise. He'd clearly looked at this, but he didn't expect it necessarily from Nepomniachtchi, and it all fizzled out very quickly. And maybe if we just show a couple of moments, and maybe in hindsight, Magnus will regret forcing the issue by bringing his bishop out. This led to a series of kind of simple moves for Nepomniachtchi to find. We saw the bishops disappear from the board. We saw pawns disappear as well. And it was around this point that actually in the discussion between Jan and Magnus, they were just having a chat about what could happen. And I was trying to eavesdrop, trying to follow some of the variations. It was quite complicated there. But after a check here, I think they were just discussing white throwing this pawn forward very, very quickly. And we mentioned this as well. It wasn't too convincing, but maybe it was the best bet in terms of trying to create winning chances here. Magnus soon installed a pawn forward, but maybe he could have pressed forward with the central pass pawn and caused more problems. Either way, he mentioned it. The computer's probably just says 0.0, probably says a draw. From a human point of view, he would have hoped to put on more pressure with this guy running, but in the end, he just couldn't find anything. It was just a frustrating day for the world champion.
All right, game 4, a draw between Jan Nepomniachtchi and Magnus Carlsen. We are waiting for the press conference to also hear from Jan Nepomniachtchi. Before that, we're going to have a quick commercial break.
Today, more than ever, when the world comes together to create a better tomorrow.
It's going to be magic.
Oh, La magie. Magic. Magic with music.
With architecture.
With colors.
Magic with celebration. With your safety.
From here.
There.
And everywhere.
For 6 whole months, day and night.
Join the making of a new world, starting October 1st.
Welcome to the new Chess24 playing experience. Play in light mode or dark mode. Choose from a range of time controls or create a custom game. And get paired with players from around the world, fast. Enjoy a polished playing experience while making moves on a fresh, responsive board to claim your victories. Train and improve with over 80,000 puzzles. And that's not all. Download now and discover what more you can enjoy in our brand new app.
This is John. John loves to study chess. This is David. David loves to study chess as well, but efficiently. John spends more time setting up the board and figuring out what's on the page of his book than he gets to study. David likes to take it easy and use his time wisely. David has finished his exercise for today. John should try the same.
As a kid, I spent hours every day reading about chess, about openings, chess history, and games played between world champions, grandmasters, all of them. My apps make learning much easier. Everything I know you can find in my apps: Magnus Trainer, Tactics Frenzy, and Play Magnus. You can learn the basic rules of chess, train with our 400 lessons, and even play against my digital self. Download and try my apps for free.
Welcome back to Chess24 Global Broadcast. We are waiting for the press conference after Game 4 ended in a draw. We've been very happy to have Grandmaster Arian Tari in the studio today. Arian, are you surprised it was such a quick day? Magnus with the white pieces and everything?
Yeah, I shouldn't come to the studio more.
We have to have you for a longer day.
Sorry?
We have to have you here for a longer day.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pity, of course, that it ended so quickly. But these games, as I said before, when you have 14 games, you will always see some games ends like this.
Mm-hmm.
The black player being so well prepared, and yeah, he just couldn't do anything.
Yeah. What do you expect tomorrow then, David, when Jan will have the white pieces and Magnus have been so well prepared with the black pieces?
I'm not sure what I expect, but I know what I want.
Yeah.
I want Jan to not push his king's pawn. I want him to try something different, maybe a queen's pawn opening, maybe an English opening, and just to keep more pieces on the board, keep more tension, just a bit less direct, because today, but also maybe Game 3 in a way, they did fizzle out at some point with lots of exchanges, lots of trades, and both players just neutralizing each other there. So I'm hoping Jan maybe tries a different strategy and puts extra pressure or a different type of pressure on Magnus Carlsen.
All right, we're going to head back down to Dubai to Tanya. And I think, Tanya, you're joined by a few more of Magnus's friends that are actually taking the trip down to Dubai.
Kaja, it is a wrap for Game 4, and even though it's Magnus Carlsen's birthday, Jan Nepomniachtchi had no gift to give him whatsoever. I think this was another impressive game by the black pieces. Jan showing how extremely well prepared he is. Magnus in his post-game did mention that he wasn't completely surprised with the with the Petrov, because I think Naidov is the kind of opening that we could expect. But in the end, Jan showing that with the black pieces, he still got it under control. And whether surprised or not, I think Magnus was definitely not expecting this. Knight h4 was an interesting idea at some point, but once again, Jan took his time, paused, did not rush, and managed to keep things under control. In the end, we saw the world champion really trying to push for something there, trying to come up with some great ideas, but that position was just too late, and there was little to be done. In the end, the game ended in a draw. I'm not sure what Magnus's mindset is currently for his birthday. And I think I've got the people that we can find out from. We've got two of his friends who've come to support him, who are down here in Dubai to support Magnus. And Arnish, what do you think? How is Magnus feeling after this game?
Yeah, it's still another draw. I was hoping for a win this time on his birthday and all, but yeah, it's still an equal. It's quite normal as well that these matches starts with a lot of draws. So we'll see what happens next. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm not sure what his plans are for later. There's a game tomorrow as well, so yeah, hopefully Magnus can get a win soon.
Do you think it's going to be a late night, or do you think he's going to definitely get some sleep and focus on tomorrow?
It's not going to be late. What we're going to do, it depends on his mood. Like, if he blended a win, he would not see us at all. So, I guess. But yeah, we'll see. He has to decide what we're going to do. So.
And we noticed at the football game, there were a lot of family and friends there yesterday when on the rest day, and you were playing there yourself. How is that? Is that something that's quite usual for Magnus during the matches to get some rest by playing sport?
Yeah, during the free days, he likes to play sports like basketball and football, and yeah, maybe watch some football as well. So I think it's good for him to focus on something else than chess on his free days when he can. Yeah.
Now, you guys play some chess yourselves. What do you think? Do you think that Magnus was expecting the Petrov? Is that something that took him by surprise today?
Yeah, well, okay, he can play any line but like extreme details, I don't know how much, but he knows so much theory, and these guys are really good and well prepared, so then it's really hard to win a game.
It's super hard to break through somewhere. Now, Magnus and Jan have known each other for such a long time and are good friends as well. Is that a dynamic in the World Championship match? Because it kind of is what makes it different from the previous matches.
Yeah, perhaps. And like the number shows that this is probably the most accurate World Championship match that has ever been played. Like the games are almost perfect. So yeah, maybe they know each other too well. So yeah.
And what's the atmosphere like once the game is over and Magnus goes back? Is there a lot of discussion around the game, or is it just, okay, let's take a break from all the chess?
I don't know, but I think he has a long talk with Peter Heine, and they talk like, not maybe like into depth, but like what could we have done different, like don't have to focus on the details, just focus on the next game, and just, because what's happened you can't actually change, so I think you just have to look forward.
And how long are you guys going to be here in Dubai supporting Magnus?
We're only staying here until Friday, so we're getting today's and tomorrow's game. So we're hoping for some exciting game tomorrow.
Awesome. We look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
And there we have Magnus's friends down in Dubai supporting the world champion. It is his birthday. Tomorrow, looking forward to a big game 5. Magnus takes on with the black. Magnus starts with the black pieces. We'll see this time what Jan Nepomniachtchi does with white.
All right. Thanks so much for all your input from Dubai today as well, Tanya, and 2 good friends of Magnus. Is it a good idea for him today, David, to celebrate his birthday, maybe with some friends?
For sure, he needs those good vibes, and it's worked for him in the past, right? Magnus, I know when he was in London for the World Championship in 2018, he brought a lot of friends there as well, and it helped him just maintain his calmness and stay in the zone and to kind of stay in a good mood as well for the games.
Yeah. Do you expect Magnus now to bring his friends maybe to his hotel or a restaurant and actually celebrate?
Yeah. Usually when I play a tournament, I prepare in the mornings. So same day as the game. So I don't think Magnus is going to like prepare too much tonight. Probably just relax, meet his friends, eat some dinner.
Yeah. Because obviously a game start in Dubai is 4:30 in midday. Is that basically a perfect game start for chess players?
That's perfect. I always play my best, if I start at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. where you have a...
For me and David, it's perfect.
But not for Jovanka. You prefer the early morning games.
Yeah. Early mornings all the way. 9 a.m. I want it.
You're very much the exception, though, Jovanka. Most chess players are night owls.
Yeah. Well, you said that was a big success factor for you in the Grand Swiss, that you never prepared for your games in the evenings. You always did it in the morning.
Yeah, actually, I was trying to avoid finding out my opponent for the next day as long as possible. Obviously, Magnus can't do that, however. He knows who he's playing every day, so obviously it might affect his sleep slightly. But yeah, for me, I prefer not knowing and just kind of focusing at the game and working as hard as possible at the board.
Yeah, and you said you do the same basically, Arjan. You prepare in the morning, always?
Yeah, I prepare in the morning. Just like you usually, let's say the game starts at 4 or 5, you finish the game at maybe 9, then you're tired and you want to relax. So just easier to prepare in the morning. You always have some hours.
Yeah. Well, we know you guys are watching from all over the world in many, many different time zones. So we're going to take a look at your selfies while we wait for the press conference. Loving the little chess cat in the end. Is going to make Simon Williams happy on his birthday as well. He has his own chess cat at home. Charlie the chess cat, I think, is the Twitter handle for Simon's cat. And we are still waiting for the press conference to start very, very shortly. Remember now, if you want to analyze today's game and look at it, you can head over to Chessable. Hans Niemann, Grandmaster, American Grandmaster, is making a course every day on today's game from the World Championship match. So check it out on the link below. All right, let's see if some people are arriving at the press conference. We're wondering the mood, especially of Magnus Carlsen. Is he a little bit frustrated with Jan Nepomniachtchi? He's not able to surprise him at all with the white pieces so far, David.
Yeah, I think on Magnus Carlsen's part, it will be quite a somber mood. He'll have a lot to think about, a lot of questions to answer tonight and before the next game. And there we see the players arriving.
Yeah.
Jan Nepomniachtchi with his mask. Magnus looking relaxed, but we'll see the mood as the questions come in.
All right, let's head to the press conference led by Grandmaster Maurice Ashley.
Questions can be asked at the microphones to the sides of the room. Please do not touch the microphones, and always at all times wear your mask as you ask questions. And please direct your questions to the individual player or players, but if you want both to answer, name the one you would like to answer first. Magnus, first, let me say happy birthday. And in that regard, what, if you may let us know, is your history of playing chess on your birthday, and how did that possibly affect your approach today or your mindset today in today's game?
I would have, of course, loved to have a rest day on the eve of my birthday, so that I could have at least a token celebration. Apart from that, I would say it's pretty good. I think I won at least one game in the World Cup against Almanatov, I believe, in 2005. And obviously, the match in 2016 was decided on my birthday in the tiebreak. So it's going to take a lot for me to have bad recollections of me playing on my birthday, even though I lost to So last year.
Jan, did this matter to you at all that it was Magnus's birthday? As chess players have superstitions. Your experience on your birthday and how that might have affected today?
Yeah, absolutely. My big goal was not to forget to congratulate Magnus. Yeah. I mean, at least after the game, yeah. So once again, congratulations. But as for me, I think it was very different. So I believe in childhood I played a few games on my birthday, but it was, I mean, it never was easy or something, yes. So in general, I think trying to recall this in the memory, it was like some another game, and yeah, normally it only affects of that you are basically having no party because yeah, you know, you're going to play the next day or something. Yeah.
Magnus, this is your second white today. Your expectation about the Petrov, it's not traditional opening that Jan plays. Were you surprised at all by it?
No, it was one of the main openings that I expected, seeing that he played it in the candidates, and also in the first black game he went for a more classical approach rather than a sharp one. So it was very much expected. Couldn't know obviously which exact Petrov line he was gonna go for, but Petrov in itself was very much expected.
And your feeling about the opening you got?
What can I say? I tried something concrete and it didn't work, but that's, I think, normal results. I didn't expect him, obviously, to have missed the line that I played completely, but yeah, in some other iterations there can be a lot of difficult decisions to make for black, but I think, yeah, the way that he played, there was just there are some different tries, but there's just nothing. And state of modern chess, not much else to say.
You did, though, at the end look like you were working like overtime, sweating. to try to get something at the end. You looked like you were really trying very hard before you finally stopped. Why was that?
I think it sometimes happens at World Championships that you work a lot before the match, and you work a lot during the match and openings and such, and somehow this makes you work less over the board. My approach was very clear there, that I didn't think particularly that I had anything, but I have 2 hours for the game, so I should spend them all looking for whatever chances can be found.
Jan, did you feel like you were in any difficulty at any point during this game?
Well, actually the line in which happened is, I guess, should be known by many who play Petrov. Yes, so it's one of the lines which are quite principled. Despite this, I believe knight h4 is a very interesting try, but perhaps I even wanted to play this as white one day. Yeah. But in general, yeah, the task was more or less about not to mix up things here and not to, I don't know, not to do something stupid, because as far as I know, this line is more or less, to say so, safe for black. So of course I was checking twice everything and also calculating a lot, but in general, yeah, I think this is quite safe.
Draw for this game, satisfying result?
Well, since I played Petrov, indeed.
And for you, Magnus, second white took a shot, but again a draw. Is this at all frustrating, or still early in the match?
No, it's okay. I've started with a lot more draws than this earlier, and when you play a forest line as today, you don't expect to hit very often, but the idea is to hit once in a while, take your opponent by surprise, and the other times you're usually going to be very safe. I obviously would have loved to win. Would have loved to find more chances than I did, but I think overall, yeah, it's a normal result against a well-prepared opponent.
We'll take our first question from reporters in the room, please.
Well, I'm Rune from the Chess24 Global podcast, and of course the entire Chess24 team wishes you a happy birthday. Magnus, my question is for you. I'm sure that chess fans all over the world hopes for you, that you can go out and celebrate and have a very nice birthday. Will this be possible for you, or do you have to just work in order to prepare for tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm playing tomorrow. I feel like general idea of a World Championship match is that you celebrate after you've hopefully won.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Yeah, Sagar Shah from Chesswiz India. My question is to Magnus. First of all, happy birthday.
All right, the press conference going on. I think Magnus, maybe a better mood than we suspected.
Yep, I think he's just being realistic. There's still plenty of games left. Okay, it hasn't been going according to plan quite, but it hasn't necessarily been a disaster either. So, yeah, now he's just going to relax tonight, I think, and try and save some energy for a really, really important game tomorrow.
Yeah. Arjan, are you going to follow the games from Norway? Are you traveling to Dubai? What's your plans going forwards?
I'm actually going to Canada on Monday. That's just a whole day visiting my friends Eric Hansen and Aman Hambleton.
Wow, so we all know those two. Chessbrow, of course.
Yeah, very famous streamers.
Yeah.
Or not very, but they are. If you watch chess, they are pretty popular.
Yeah, super popular. So basically, if people want to watch you in the future, they can check out Chessbrow on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be on their streams, yeah.
All right, will you analyze it?
Laid back, chill.
Will you guys be following the match and maybe, analyze them a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. We're definitely gonna watch. I mean, the World Championship is such a big thing. Like, it's every second year, and now it's actually it was 3 years ago last time. So the whole chess world just always looks forward to it and watches with great interest.
Cool.
And you've been guest starring on a lot of streams lately now with the Chess Barrage, last week with the Bota sisters. Is this the start of a new career path for you?
Maybe starting your own stream.
We'll see. It's nice to make some appearances here and there.
Yeah.
It's fun. I have my own channel on Twitch, but I haven't been streaming so much once in a while.
Is it hard if you're going to be a top player, you know, in the top hundreds, to be able to do that at the same time as playing? Is it basically impossible because it's just 2 jobs?
Yeah, I think it's hard to combine. So mostly I've been just focusing on my own career, but yeah, just once in a while, but not too often, because especially if you have many events, it's hard to like stream every day.
Yeah, like Magnus Carlsen, the occasional hot tub streaming.
You're welcome to join us anytime.
Yeah.
Looking forward.
All right, well, Arian Talri, he's traveling to Canada. We're going to take a look at the schedule that we have every day that there is a game going on. So we start every day at 1 o'clock CET. That is 7 in the morning in the US in New York. It's 4 o'clock in Dubai, and Game 5 is coming up tomorrow. There's going to be a rest day the day after that. But next game, Magnus Carlsen, black pieces, Nepomniachtchi, white pieces, Game 5 tomorrow. Will we finally have a decided games? 18 games in a row in the World Championship matches has now ended with a draw in the classical games for Magnus Carlsen. Maybe tomorrow we'll have a win. Hope you guys will join us again. Thanks for watching. Bye.